Hello and welcome back to Indieventure, an indie gaming podcast brought to you by the single brain cell share between Rebecca Jones, Rachel Watts, and Liam Richardson. Hi, guys!
Hello!
Hi! We do share it.
I do not have it today. Actually, we checked with each other earlier and we can't work out where it's got to this week, so prepare for some very specific energy in this episode. It has gone missing. We don't know where it is. But luckily, despite all that, we are all here to talk about a very special topic, which is our indie games of the year for 2023. We've actually talked about all of these games before, either on this podcast or a previous one. But Liam won't let us do a clip show because apparently that's a lot more editing than just cutting out all the worst things we say during a single recording session, which surprised me, if I'm honest. But okay, I do believe him. So anyway, here we are.
Wow. Called out from a private Discord message.
Oh man, I wish that was like the tone of our like deepest, darkest secrets. Is I asked Liam if we could do a clip show and he said no, and that's like the biggest drama behind the scenes.
We just like low-key roast each other like on the podcast.
I would love that. Yeah, like by a year in, we always said that we'd fall out with each other at some point. It'd be really funny. I'll let the listeners guess as to when that happened.
It was more meant to be a roast of all of us together. But yeah.
Well, I liked how earlier you said, "Oh, should we do a clip show?" as a joke, and then I very seriously went, "Please don't make me do that. I'm so tired."
It was the tonal sort of dissonance that made it stick in my mind and made me want to write it into the intro. To be honest, if you just gone with it for a second and then we'd left it, I probably wouldn't have remembered it by this time. But I did. I did want to do a bit of housekeeping actually, just before we proceed into the main part of the episode. So this is our last episode of 2023. And we're going to be taking a slightly longer than usual break where we'll have a bit of a rest over Christmas, with the possible exception of poor Liam, who genuinely does still have to edit all this nonsense. But please do join us again in 3 weeks' time instead of 2. So January the 11th, I think, is the date we're anticipating being back.
Yes.
We'll restart next year with a rundown of our most anticipated indie games coming up in 2024. And I should probably repeat this bit in the outro, but I've told you about the brain cell situation, so I just wanted to say that up top. Just get it out of the way while I'm thinking about it.
Fair play for remembering to do it at the start. I would not have remembered to do that in the intro. So I think you have the brain cell, Rebecca.
Oh God!
Congratulations!
It's very tired if it is here. Another thing that I wanted to say that I thought was kind of funny was that as I was writing this intro, I realised that our Christmas special, our last episode, actually launched up against the Game Awards. Like, we released at 4 p.m. UK time, and the Game Awards were at like 1 a.m. UK time the following day. So hopefully people who wanted to listen to both managed to work out and listen before the show. But it was kind of like, were we the pre-show for the Game Awards this year?
Yes.
I think we were. And I realised in hindsight, it would have made so much sense to do this Game of the Year episode, to have it launch on the same day as the Game Awards, and then do our Christmas episode in this slot, which is going to go out on the 21st of December, like a few days before Christmas. But you know what? We're still more organised than Jeff Keighley, and we actually respect the devs whose games have got us through this year, so I'm calling this an Indieventure win. Nevertheless, all things considered, yeah, I think that we still come out of that one.
Spicy.
I'm annoyed.
She coming in hot.
I'm annoyed
about this episode.
Get him.
Yeah.
Get him.
Go on.
You know what? Jeff, if you're listening, do better.
Yeah,
That's
Jeff.
all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say on that.
Jeffrey.
But yeah, that's my bit of like intro patter. That's like all my feelings out up top. Was that I was just like, oh man, if I'd realised the exact dates that we were doing these on, probably would have done it in a different order. But you know what? You never have to feel ashamed when you're up against like Jeff Keighley as the benchmark. So it's good.
Well, no, absolutely not. It's a very low benchmark. I feel like, if we did that, that would have required some kind of forethought, which is not the vibe of this podcast whatsoever. So that's why we're doing it this way.
Not at all.
Also, like, this episode feels very special to me because it's like Game of the Year episode. It's like first year podcasting.
Yay,
we're rounding off our first year doing it. We're, celebrating all the great games we've played. Talking about Jeff Keighley, even just saying his name in that context, feels a bit like going to a really cool party with loads of people you love, but someone's invited their bad boyfriend and you're just trying desperately not to let their bad vibes get you down. That's what mentioning ghoulish Jeff.
Ghoulish Jeff.
Yeah, I was.
And his Jeffa
cakes.
Jeffa cakes. The Jeffa cakes for our listeners? Was that?
Oh,
was
they
that the
were?
joke? think so.
You know what? I don't want that association with this anymore. Let's
throw it
bin that
away
off right now.
into
But yeah,
the trash.
I like to say that we've got the kind of cursed association out of the way. It kind of felt like the elephant in the room in a way because of the sort of lineup of dates. I hope that everyone, enjoyed our Game Awards pre-show and was able to tolerate the Game Awards. And I think that we draw the line. We draw the line because this is the real, the real Game of the Year list starts here.
The one that matters. I completely agree. Only God can judge us. I think I said that on our last Game of the Year episode.
Is that our like our what do you call it on it strap line? Our little poster quote.
Yes.
Only God can judge us.
Indieventure. Only God can judge us.
I mean, if you wanted the correct opinion for the best games of the year, then you have come to the right place, and you'll be getting a lot of those recommendations.
Yes.
So many.
So many. This is a big bumper episode.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Where's my start?
Where's the brain cell? Where did it
go?
Yeah,
she's desperately looking for it. It has left her head.
Oh,
I found it. It's all good.
Nice. Yeah.
It was in this pile of crap on my desk. It's fine. So yeah, before we start, it's probably worth saying a little bit about how we've assembled this list, just in the name of transparency.
Oh yeah, good point.
Which is terrifically organised. Obviously, as you can probably tell, is that we decided we'd all write a list of our top 5 games, like indie games of the year, and we'd share it with each other, and we'd see where the overlap was, whether there was anything we could kind of say on the basis of that. And we came up with 3 lists which were entirely different, save for the one game that appeared on all 3 lists. Which we're not sort of big into like rankings here, but we are kind of going to leave that one to last, and kind of we're going to call it the Indieventure Game of the Year 2023. Everything else is going to be much more freeform. We're just going to round robin talk about like these. The thing is, right, these are. It was so hard to do these lists, and this still doesn't feel comprehensive.
I know.
Like
I
4
honestly,
games each plus our like Game of the Year as a group doesn't feel like nearly enough to talk about all the amazing games that we've been able to play and to cover this year.
Yes.
But you know what we're like. You know that we regularly bang on for 2 hours about much, much less in terms of actual content. So we had to put a limit on there somewhere, and sort of 5 each was where we landed. I know.
This is a low-key roast. This is a low-key roast.
I'm
of
sorry,
Indieventure.
I told you. I'm in such a mood.
I know,
I'm in such a
love
weird
this
mood.
energy. I'm so
This is
here
great,
for this
yeah.
energy.
Oh no. Oh.
What a way to round out our first year than to call us out for what we are. 3 people who can't focus for more than a minute.
Yeah, look, it's as much a call out of myself, and it's just a testament to our friendship that I can roast you both so comfortably after a year of doing a podcast with you.
Yeah, well, I can edit out my tears, so the listeners don't know how hard I'm crying right now.
Oh, that's my secret, is I am actually deeply horrible.
I would. That would kind of be cool.
Oh, that would be like the
I would love
expose,
that.
wouldn't it? Like the book that's like My Story by Liam Richardson about
My
the time
truth.
of Indieventure.
YouTube video. You'd come back with a ukulele and apologise.
Hey, it's been a while. Rebecca roasted me every episode.
God. It's frightening because it's so true. No, but no, the end of the year does find me sort of barely hanging on to my sanity as I scramble to get everything done in my last week of work so that I can have some time off, and it is slightly showing in my attitude to just everything at the moment. I will like snap at anything, inanimate objects, to fuck off this week. So like, yeah,
I can't wait. I hope I mention a game you don't agree with and just tell me to fuck off, like, as I'm talking about it. That would be very funny.
That would be amazing.
No, never to the lovely indie games that we cover on this show. That's the line.
Yeah, to be fair, we got an epic list.
We do have a really good list
really
as well. Honestly,
good.
can't object to it, really.
What's really great about, and this something I was really thinking when you both sent your lists into the group chat, is how different they all are. I know we have one game where there's crossover, but am I right in thinking that all of those other games, there is no crossover?
No
like
crossover.
The 3 of us have such different tastes that all of our lists are quite wildly different in terms of the genres and the themes of the games.
Yeah, which makes it all the more impressive that one game stood out enough that we all listed it, frankly.
Yeah, that's very true, actually. Yeah.
There's definitely games on like your guys' list though that I was so close to
same,
like picking.
Same, absolutely.
So there is a bit of like cross pollination going on, but I feel like because we're all so different, it's like it's the best. It's gonna indie game bonanza, bananas.
It like, really is.
Oh.
What I'd be interested in is next year when we do our best 2024 indie list.
Indeed.
Is part of me sort of thinks, oh, well, 2023 has been such an incredible year for indies. There's been such a diverse selection of things to play. And indeed, my list of games to play is as long as the list of things I have played. I know you two are very similar.
At least,
but
yeah.
I sort of suspect that even next year, we'll still end up with 3 completely different lists just because of who we are as people and how we approach our gameplay and habits. I'm just patting ourselves on the back here. I just thought it was really cool.
Nice.
after the burn, it's
I know.
the
I came in with all the insult comedy
little
today.
Bit like... of Rebecca Burns, I soothe. That's the
and I'm gonna slap it afterwards.
Now we're back on track. That's the energy.
But with one of those when you used to have those like sticky hands on like an elastic thing that kids have, where you like go whoosh, like with little whips. One of them.
Ooh. Or
that has Rachel energy.
Oh, it
I don't really know what that means, but
I was thinking as well like a slap bracelet as well. Did you guys have a slap?
Oh, slap! Yeah, of course, you had a slap
bracelet.
bracelet. So satisfying.
So good. Anyway, that's the energy.
I think we've settled on it now. We found it.
Yeah, we've got it. We're
found
very
it.
tired. It's the end of the year. We're going to have a nice cozy chat about 15 great games. 14 great games?
Hold on. Maths. 13. 13, because it would have been 15, but we...
Yes, 13.
4 each, and then the one that we all
the...
picked that I'm not naming for dramatic purposes.
Thank you to the holder of the brain cell for doing the math for
yes,
me there.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Brain cell keeper.
Brain cell queen.
I'm doing my best. I'm really doing my best. It's not easy. Right, shall we talk about some really brilliant indie games?
Yeah, let's do it.
Here's a weird fact. I've been getting like really persistent earworms all week from like various songs. And at one point, I had something stuck in my head. I was like, "Where have I heard that? Where have I heard that? Where have I heard that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's my own podcast's theme." Great.
Was it Indieventures?
Yeah,
was it Cigarette Board?
Yeah, it was Cigarette Board.
And
I was like, what am I at?
The theme from Indiscovery was my 4th most listened to track last year on Spotify. Which I'm not proud of.
That's sweet. I was going to say, it just makes a change having Cigarette Boat stuck in my head, because like literally for about a week and a half, I've had Starlight by Muse on loop in my head. Like I wake up at 4 a.m. and Starlight by Muse is on loop in my head.
Okay.
I like that song, but it won't go away.
That Muse album, I used to like think about so many like music videos and like scenarios to like that Muse album. What's it called? You dissociate? I used to dissociate to that album so much. Oh. I now want us to Starlight on repeat.
I never listened to Muse until like this year, so I got into anime and Muse. I'm basically a 14-year-old boy in 2000.
Oh my god!
So, sorry, what? This is now the first. Yeah, that's blown my mind a little bit. You've gotten into Muse and Diluti in 2023.
Anime.
Sorry, squash.
Anime
and anime.
I guess also squash.
yes.
Yeah, no, you are right. The squash callback is real.
Yeah, you only bought squash
I thought
this
you
year.
misheard Rebecca.
No, I did as well, but then I was like, no,
I
the squash thing
you
is
said
real
anime,
too.
and I was like, Robinsons.
Yeah, right. No, seriously, the brain cell just fell out the side, and like it all went wrong. But we're back now.
Read an anime chat. I haven't watched anime. I used to be really into anime. I'm reading anime chat.
I have watched like
I've watched
3
it for
animes,
years,
so
yeah.
don't like think I'm an expert. But I've stopped.
I just want to know what you're watching. But that's not for this podcast. Also, with this podcast that we're recording right now, are we saying
aren't we? Shit.
Are we saying the game name? And then we're having Liam, do you plan to put like a little snippet of the music from the game name? Do you want us to pause? Because I don't
please.
pause, so I need to pause. I'll pause.
Yeah, actually, I always mean to ask. But normally it's quite easy to cut around. But yeah, if we can all pause. I don't pause either. So
if we all
if
could
we could,
pause,
that'd be great. Little pause. Little 2-second pause.
Okay.
No talking, or you'll be killed. Thank you.
Yep.
And then we'll go straight into the game.
Don't run off a death.
I've got an orbital nuke just like, you know, when I was like, oh, I'm going to send you a Christmas card and I got your addresses the other day. It was actually to really target the orbital nukes if we talk over the
shit.
talk over the stinger. Yeah, God, I really mean today.
No, love it.
No, I deserve to be nuked. It would be a blessing. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to live, so.
Okay. It's all right.
I'd like to live, please.
I'll have Rachel's, it's fine.
Yes.
Right. So I think we should just start. Rachel, do you wanna go first?
Yes, of course. So my first pick, which one do I start with? So this year I feel like there was a lot of like, in terms of like puzzle games, really like mind-bending puzzle games this year. So there was like Chance of Sonar, which was kind of like this like language deciphering game. There was Humanity, which was like this really strange like crowd maneuvering, controlling game. But out of all the kind of like mind-bendy, galaxy-brainy puzzles this year, my favorite was Geometric Interactive's Cocoon.
Cocoon, by the way, an absolute pain to get music from because I think it has very little music, doesn't it?
It has like little bits of music, but it's pretty like you can just have nothing, just an ambient noise.
When you spoke about it before and I put some music in, I think I had a choice between "Mwah" or "Mwah,"
yes,
and that was it. And I was like, oh, which do I pick?
But yes, so my first pick of Indie Games 2023 is Cocoon. It's, this kind of platforming puzzle game where you play as a little bug who's like navigating this like strange biomechanical world, and you're kind of like navigating this strange place, and you do that through the art of world hopping. And in Cocoon, worlds exist within orbs, like different colored orbs. And our little bug friend can actually jump into these orbs and be in a new world and also jump out again. But the twist of these puzzles is that you can take worlds inside other worlds, orbs inside other orbs, kind of like Inception style gameplay. And it just takes this core mechanic and it just goes to some absolutely mind-boggling places with it. And the game designer is the same dude who worked on Limbo and who worked on Inside, so you know it's like legit. The puzzles are going to be like so good. I think his name's Jeppe Carlsen, so absolutely he's working on it. But I think the one thing that separates this puzzle game out of the others for me is just how like engrossing this world is. It's like it has this really weird ability to like lull you into kind of like that like flow state, like galaxy brain like flow state. And I just feel like that is such a subtle art to do, especially in puzzle games. Like I did not get stuck once playing this game. Everything is so streamlined. Like I honestly felt like my brain was like plugged into like the PC. Like any like wow. especially as like there is no text boxes, there's no tutorials, there is no dialogue. This game doesn't even tell you to press A at certain points. You just mess with the controller and intuitively press A.
Oh.
And that's the only button in Cocoon is you just move with the joystick and you press A. That's it. That's the whole like button layout. It's just those two features. So yeah, it's incredibly meditative. It kind of guides you through really clever systems like environmental layouts and like controller feedback. So like when you're kind of close to solving a puzzle, the controller will like kind of vibrate or like, there's like musical cues, and the gradient in terms of puzzles, like how difficult they get, is so finely tuned that I could not, having played through it twice, tell you the last couple of puzzles. Like they were just so intuitive, and I just knew what to do that I couldn't describe them. I literally couldn't describe the last like 6 or 7 puzzles of that. Like the last hour, it's a 5-hour game. I could not describe the last hour because I was so in tune with like what this game was giving me. And I think that's why it's like I've chosen it out of the other handful of puzzle games, just because like the word that comes to mind is seamless. This game is seamless. And yeah, there are like boss fights and action sequences, but they're not really like there to challenge you. They're there to show you ideas and then like pop back into the ether. But yeah, this game, I think, well, I've like sat down to play it, and within the first hour, I was like, this 100% is like going to be in my top games of the year. Like, I just think it's so clever with its puzzle design. I love its world building, and the bug is cute. I do like playing as a little dude running around. So yeah, my first pick is Cocoon.
I mean, like, excellent choice, right? I mean, the amount of buzz, was that anything this game caused?
Yes, that is definitely
was huge. It's on Game Pass, right? Like, this is something you could literally just boot up and play over Christmas. I have not played this, but I've enjoyed reading a lot of very good words about it. You did an interview with the composer?
So it was Yeppe and then the audio engineer and composer. He did both. Like, he did the soundscape. But yeah, so they were very interesting. And we just talked again about this like ability for like this game silently guiding you.
Definitely very taken with the idea of a puzzle game that you just don't get stuck on. That's like such a hard balance to hit. And when a game does hit it, like you say, it has got like that. I'm thinking of the word flow, which I know is like is exactly what you're saying, but also is a game by is it that game company who made Journey, which is another similar game where it does have that kind of like meditative and very like pared down and very simplistic and like less is more puzzling that is very, very easy to just sit and play without kind of drifting from as well. I was gonna be super polite, and I was gonna say, you know, we'll go around and Liam go next, but actually my first pick I think feeds into this topic so well that with your permission, I might break order slightly and
granted.
I mean, my pick. Please do. I want to hear what your linked pick is. That's a fascinating segue.
Yeah, because the first game that I wanted to talk about, and again, this has been brought up on the podcast a couple of times already, is Birth by Madison Carr, which is also a very streamlined, very simple, like basically no dialogue puzzle game. Like Rachel, I've played a lot of puzzle games this year, and it was hard. It was hard picking just the one. But when I sort of went back over everything that I've played this year, it was just the fact that I played Birth back in February, and I'm still thinking of it now in December as like one of the best games I've played all year. And I was like, you know, how often do the games that you played in January, February just kind of like leave your mind by the time you're over, you know, get around to doing Game of the Year stuff? And yet, Birth, which is, you know, I won't go over it too much because we've got another episode where I talk about it in quite a bit of detail, it's a very simple puzzle. I haven't played Cocoon, but I suspect that Birth is a little bit more simplistic. It's more about kind of playing with the environment, I guess, and working out what the game allows you to do in terms of like player agency rather than trying to like challenge you with particularly difficult puzzles. But it has that similar sort of like you get very lost in the world, which is very surreal and unlike our world. And yet by the end, it has come through with this like very affirming message about sort of community and about companionship, and yet sort of also about learning to be okay with being alone as well, which I think is another theme of Birth that maybe I haven't gone into as much in the many times that I've talked about it this year. But yeah, I just thought that those made for such a nice pair of games. And honestly, it was I will admit, it was a close run thing there were a lot of games that could have gone in the sort of 5th place for me. It's not a super ordered list, but it was kind of the last one I chose, and there were a couple of other games that I could have put here. But Birth is just so it's tiny, but I didn't want to discount it for the fact that it's like a 2-hour game, because it is basically flawless in my opinion.
Oh, I like that.
Both as like a narrative and a puzzle experience as well. And so I really do think, especially like I say, having, you know, read up on Madison Carr and her career and played her other games to date, like it is very much someone who has clearly honed their craft through the fact that, you know, this Wings scholarship, what's the word I'm thinking of? It's not scholarship, is it? It's grant.
Oh yeah,
it's a fund
yeah,
that, you know, allowed her to kind of focus on making this game and, you know, really refine her art. And like a lot of the games that I want to talk about today are actually solo dev projects, or at least a fair few of them are. And I just think there's something really special about a solo dev coming out with something like this that, as I say, 10 months later, I'm still like, oh yeah, that was a really beautiful, you know, really pleasant February afternoon that I can still look back on really fondly. And the puzzle sections are cool as well. They kind of do have you thinking.
Yeah, very tactile.
In a very, very twisty way. But you're never... It just reminded me when you said that you were never stuck in Cocoon. And I was like, yeah, Birth is the same. There's never a moment where you couldn't kind of feel your way through, even if you look at a screen and initially your thought would be like, this makes no sense. You know, from like there's no point that you can grapple onto, just because it doesn't really resemble the real world in anything but the most sort of high level of particulars. But by, you know, a couple of minutes in, you work out what you can click on. You're like, okay, this is how like physics is working in this puzzle. This is how, you know, I'm supposed to follow patterns through this puzzle. And it was just such a satisfying experience. And I thought I really did want to mention it again at this end of the year, because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think with Birth, it's definitely one of the most sincerest games I've played this year. There is just such heart in
there. Yes,
this
literally.
what 2 hour yes in this 2 hour game. And love you, Maddie. Shout out to you if you listen. No idea, we love you. I say that every single time. You're so lovely. But yeah, it's definitely, there's another one on your list, Rebecca, that is another one that is very sincere. But Birth is just very wholesome. And yeah, it just has a real physical and literal and metaphorical heart to it. So yeah, I'm not, so it released in February, did it? Wow.
I think it was, it might even have been January. I know I played it in February, but I was already backlogging stuff by February, because it's been such a jammed year for titles. Really
so yeah. This definitely had like a profound impact on you, didn't it? Because you've brought it up a couple of times, and it definitely seems to have resonated with you in a certain way.
So impressed by how, like, as I just say, I cannot find anything to fault about the experience. It was, you know, I am a firm believer that there's no such thing as a 10 out of 10 game. I say it a lot. There are holes to pick in everything, but really I can't find anything negative to say about Birth. I think it's just for how long it is, and I think that it being a short game is not a criticism. It's as long as it needs to be. But for how for how long it is pretty much like a perfect little puzzle game. So
well, that's a lovely pick.
It's a very good pick. I'm glad to see it represented here, because like I say, it's been quite a prominent part of the conversation this year, and I don't see many other people talking about it outside of this podcast. So
yeah, but I'm
really glad to see it.
I'm massively stuck on it. Everything else I've been playing this year, I've just been like, well, I can nitpick this, I can nitpick that, but Birth, I'm just like, no faults, just beginning to end, just such a just beautiful little game that if I had 2 hours, I would probably play again, but I never have 2 hours, so I'll play it at some point. All right, I will cease to be quite so rude. Liam, what is your first pick?
My first pick is Slayer's X, Terminal Aftermath, Vengeance of the Slayer.
When it feels like there's something, but we're living over at the test, the best of all, and I'm calling it all down on the system.
Best title of the year.
That is a very good title.
It probably is the best title of the year. Again, I have spoken about this on this podcast, or was it the other podcast? We may never know. This is very much a heart pick for me. I think there have been, better retro 90s inspired shooters that came out this year. Turbo Overkill was very close to making it in my top 5. But this game felt so specifically made for me.
Yeah.
It's hard for me not to represent it on this list because I have thought about it a lot since I played it over the summer. So this is a game by Big Z Studios Inc., although it's actually by Tendershoot, primarily Jay Tholen and Mike Lash, the people who brought us Hypnospace Outlaw. And indeed, this is a retro 90s spin-off shooter of Hypnospace Outlaw. It stars Zane Lofton, who's a teenager, who after both his mom and heavy metal mentor are killed by a gang known as the Psychos. He goes on a quest for revenge. He's imbued with the power of hack blood energy, and he journeys through Boise, Idaho to defeat the leader of the Psychos.
So good.
So what's magic about this, and this is one of the reasons why I always loved Hypnospace, is that it's a game with multiple fictional layers, a slightly abstracted version of something that's real. Within the game's own fiction, this is a first-person shooter that was developed by Zane, who's a character from Hypnospace before being abandoned. And now in 2023, the 30-ish-year-old Zane in his reality has decided to finish it off. And all of the game's marketing implies that this was developed by a fictional character from Hypnospace, to the point where the Zane Lofton Twitter account, which I think is Jay Tholen pretending to be Zane, sent me a code for this game on Twitter in character.
Oh my God!
Which is
so good.
is like a real commitment to the kayfabe of the piece. So yeah, I mean, this is basically just a very obnoxious Doom or Duke Nukem 3D like first-person shooter. You fight sentient bags of shit. The woman you fancy turns into a werewolf. Guns are designed to be cool rather than functional. You shoot cans of toxic waste that burst open to reveal horrible rats that say that they love you and that they love cheese and all sorts of nonsense. It's the kind of game a teenager would have doodled on the back of their school books in 1999. For some people, that's going to be too much to cope with. For me, it just absolutely charmed the pants off me. I think it's brilliant. The reason why I really love it is that, much like Hypnospace, there's a lot going on under the surface. So the villain of the piece is Zane's mum's boyfriend, who Zane clearly doesn't get along with. He's very protective of his mother, and that's like demonstrated in the game by how he's carefully modeled his apartment building and his mother's bedroom. But within this like 90s build engine style, graphics. And it's just really lovely to sort of see the real world represented through a teenager's lens. Like Zane has a very limited worldview. So levels are very mundane representations of like small town America. So in a level, you'll be going to a fast food restaurant or a mini golf course or a trailer park, but then you'll open up a door and there'll be a huge underground base filled with like twisting machinery and horrible mutants beyond human comprehension. And it's just a really believable sort of like parallel of what a teenager's imagination is capable of producing. Like the scope is so narrow and there's nothing really to fill the gap between these realistic depictions of places and these incredible like feats of creativity. And I just think that's quite a special thing to encapsulate within a game that, very could have easily been distributed around a school on a floppy disk in 1999.
Wow.
And it's just great. The music is all, Linkin Park style rap
so
rock. And the cutscenes are all done in like that very classic like 90s pre-rendered style.
Oh, yes. I can picture, I've not played this game, but I can see it in my mind's eye. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. It's so authentically done. I just absolutely love this game, and I had to put it on my list.
There is something so specific, I think, about a game that manages to capture nostalgia for like your own, I want to say like your own thoughts at a particular age, not, the external world that you existed in at that age, but like actually your inner landscape, if that's not too sort of pretentious of a thing to say.
No, that's a really good way of putting it, actually.
I just like, as I say, having not played this, like just hearing you describe it takes me back in such a specific way, which I feel like is the absolute intention behind this game.
Yeah.
100%.
It's like a point of view. It's like a return to an old, like, persona or, like, a younger version of yourself. And I think that's what I really liked about Hypnospace, is that, like, I don't know, I just saw myself in so many of the characters, and, like, I imagine, like, with Zane as well, like, if... Just, like, I can imagine many people looking at Zane and being like, yep, I knew that person, or I was that person, I was that kid. And I think that's what's really nice about it. And also the underlying, you know, hints at this kid's life as well, which just sounds devastating. Like, I just want to give him a hug. It's like, he would not want the hug, but I would hug him.
Where the Indieventure crew won over by a secretly sad story about a kid that needs a hug, that shocks me.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah,
very good point. So good.
It's very on, like, it sounds on the surface. Just the title alone makes it sound like quite a left field pick, and then you get into it and you're like, no, that's so us.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
that's so
group
Liam
philosophy.
coded. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Rachel, do you want to do your next one?
Yes.
This has got like a very Christmas morning feel to it, doesn't it? Everyone's like,
I know.
It does. Yeah, passing the presents around.
I gotta bring it back to Christmas.
It's Christmas spirit. A lot of my favorite games this year that I didn't manage to like get into my top 5 were also ones that kind of let us explore like a cool environment in a certain way. So a big one for me was Season, which also released like way earlier this year. Like kind of the bicycle monologues of this young woman as she travels through like a valley. There was also Chia, which I really appreciated, which was like a young girl exploring like an island inspired by New Caledonia, and the devs were from there, and it was just really cool. But my favorite in terms of landscape exploration was Jusant. Jusant.
It's fun to say.
It really is. When they released the PR,
Shoot along.
when they released it, they said this is how you pronounce it, and so I fucking hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Because if I'm not,
isn't it?
It's gotta be Jusant, surely.
Jusant. Yeah, Jusant.
Jusant. Yeah.
Not Jusant. I would never say it like that.
I would
Jusant.
never.
Just Jusant.
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 No.
Have you played that Jusant about the young lad climbing up the fucking tower? Like, that's all it is fucking climbing.
I mean, I'm not gonna do my little snippet with that accent. I couldn't, but I very much would love to hear this person, another character of your creation, talk about.
I was gonna say he's back.
Jusant. But no, it's going to be me because I played the game. But yes, I love Jusant. Also talked about in the podcast. I don't know when. Maybe this one, maybe the other one. Who knows? But yes, you play as a young traveler who is tasked with climbing this kind of like vertical, colossal, natural structure. Like this like thing is just straight up. It's not a mountain. It's just a tower. And so your goal is to reach the top by navigating like the sides of this like treacherous cliff face, but also you're kind of like piecing together this tower's past because there's like abandoned villages and outposts like nestled within the side of the tower's surface. So you're climbing and also exploring. It's essentially a climbing sim, so you have multiple ways of making your way up the tower. You can abseil, there's wall running, rope swinging, but the best part about Jusant is that there's like free climbing capabilities as you control each of the young traveler's hands. If you hold the triggers of your controller, they grip the side of the rock face. If you let go, they let go. So it's this tenuous relationship of like you sweating. I was sweating, like holding either the mouse and keyboard or a controller. I preferred controller just because it's a bit more visceral. there's a tension of you climbing and like learning, like working out like a puzzle almost, like how to efficiently climb this tower. And also the jump, okay? One of the best movements in games I've had played this year is this jump where you are climbing the side of this tower and there's a gap that's just a bit too big, so you need to hold down the A button or mouse button, I guess, to power up a jump, and then you release, and the little kid like releases off the side of the tower and grabs onto the wall again. And I swear I've never like I was just wheezing after playing some moments from this game. And so you get these really like dramatic but also like spectacle filled moments of like drama and like just complete and utter thrill. But I think my main reason for why this game is like on my list is that it's like the only game this year that I've like, I mean, you've heard me talk about it just that like I felt this game in my body. Like when this kid is climbing the walls, like I'm like grasping the controller. Like when they are like doing these jumps, my heart is like pumping. Whenever they like get over a ledge, I audibly sigh. Like this game is like I bodily felt this game as I was playing it. Like I would finish playing this game and I got to work out. I was like, I honestly feel so tired. And it just has this really wonderful way of connecting with your body. And I just not played anything else like that. So that's the reason why it's in my top 5, which is not really in any order, but kind of an order. I don't really know, but it's in my top 5. Yeah. So yeah, Jusant was in my top 5. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know why. It's just I think the mental image of you like putting the controller down and just sort of like, you know, when you've had a really intense workout and you just go like probably just like hands on your knees for a second, like
it's
it's really
it's like I did a marathon, but all I did was just sit at my computer and wheeze at the screen. Like
now that's a gamer's workout.
Oh yeah, I loved it. Thought it was great. I don't think everyone would get along with it, but that's why I liked it.
Yeah, but
this came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah,
like this just basically, was it over the summer? It was revealed. It was out 2 months later, and it absolutely blew everyone away. Like this has been probably one of the quietest hits of the year, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, they did announce it, and then it released not long after. People played it, thought it was great, and then I don't know. It made quite the impression on me. So that's why I still remembered it. But yeah, I've not seen many people chat about it. Not too many.
I think that Jusant to me is interesting because it's obviously it's an in-house production by Don't Nod, who are now also publishing. And we had a little chat earlier about like where this sits in the sort of like AA indie continuum. And the thing that I've noticed a lot this year is that AAs are really flying under the radar this year because there's not really, you know, obviously like when it comes to things like awards, there's not really an awards category where AAs fit in. There's often kind of not a space really within the industry you can't give them focus if you work for a site because they don't bring in the money from the clicks, but they're not sort of so small that places that specialize in indie coverage really get into them either. And I had a similar thing with like personally with like Ghost Trick and Paranormal this year both had a similar kind of vibe to them. And I think it's just like so nice to be able to like give almost you feel like they're getting a worse deal in some ways than the tiny indies, because at least the tiny indies have got this thing where it's like if you become the darling you'll get coverage. Whereas there's almost like no space to cover like a really good AA game. And I love AA.
Yes, thank you, Rebecca, for arguing why I should be able to talk about Jusant on podcast. Love you.
Love you too, Rachel.
There was a moment someone had the audacity. I'm not naming names.
Excuse me. I just think that Ori and the Blind Forest by being published by Microsoft.
I mean, on a personal level, I love AAs, and I think that AAs have a home on this podcast as well. And
you love Don't Nod, so
I do love Don't Nods. In fact, actually, once again, I can probably use that to do a little bit of a seg into my next one, if you don't mind me.
Ooh, seg away. Don't know about that.
Seg away.
Surely that is a thing.
I quite like
that
it,
is a thing. Seg
away.
Let's seg on over. I don't
seg
away.
Let's seg on over.
Okay, I'm not. No, I'm not.
No,
I'm not getting into.
We're not going down that rabbit hole. We're not going down that rabbit hole today.
Because I want it. I'm stopping myself because I want to hear. This is like such an exciting episode. I want to hear what you're
I know, it's so lovely. The next game that I wanted to talk about is Goodbye Volcano High, which is not a Don't Nod game, but has all the vibes of a Don't Nod game, which is pretty much what drew me to it initially.
Call before I'm gone, 'cause you want to. Won't need another home, 'cause I won't go back. I won't go back. Call before I'm gone, 'cause I want you to. Oh, drive me all the way, never take me back. Won't you fly me all the way, 'cause I won't go back. No, I want to. Don't call on me. Don't call on me.
As long-time listeners will know, I'm a big fan of the Life is Strange series, and there is like a dearth of like Life is Strange games at the moment. There's a lot of extra canonical materials been out this year, but it's like the first year with no new game really for quite a long time. And so I've been like looking at other games, and luckily there have been a lot of indies that kind of stepped in to fill that space, which makes a lot of sense. That's kind of where Life is Strange is at in its cycle of like influencing other creators. And the one that I had my eye on for the longest was Goodbye Volcano High, the dinosaur coming of age drama about being in a rock band at the end of civilization as you know it. And the thing that makes me want to kind of call this one of my games of the year is a similar thing with Birth, and it's why I chose to talk about these two first, is that like games that stuck the landing, it can be too easy to overlook a game that you thought was going to be great, and it came out and it was exactly the great little 6-hour experience that you expected it to be. It can be so easy to just kind of like gloss over that in your mind because it almost didn't, not in a bad way, but didn't surprise you with how good it was. But, you know, Goodbye Volcano High did not surprise me because I thought it was going to be a really good kind of Life is Strange, like with all the right feels and the great music and the compelling but difficult characters. And it was exactly all of that. And to not acknowledge that at the end of the year where it finally came out just felt wrong. So that is basically top level the reason why I really wanted to put it in my top 5 for the year.
Yes. Volcano High, aka Rebecca the game.
Rebecca the game.
Yeah,
if I had been a dinosaur kid, then it would have been Rebecca the game, like from start to finish. Yeah, it's like and even then, it's like it is important that it's about dinosaurs. It's extremely relevant to the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just a sort of odd aesthetic that they've chosen to make it stand out. It is very much about this kind of alternate version of dinosaur society where they have modern technology and modern social kind of mores, but are literally dinosaurs at the point where they find out that the asteroid's going to hit. And yeah, it's super short. It's like 6 hours, 8 chapters altogether. So you can play it in 2 or 3 sittings. And it's so hard not to make terrible puns at this point, but it packs a punch. It has an impact. It's like, it's really like it invites these kind of almost not very cool ways to talk about it, but it genuinely does. And it's another game, I suppose, again, if I wanted to link it back to my first pick, it's like another game very much about living in the moment and learning to kind of navigate the difficulties of life and kind of accept the things you can't change, but try and change the things that you can.
Yes.
I think we all did play this one. It's one of the few that we've all played.
Yeah, we did.
And had a big cry over Discord once we'd all finished it, as I recall.
Yeah.
It's a
my feels.
Yeah.
It's a weepy. It's a weepy at the end. It's got to be said. But yeah, it's just if like me, you've been missing Life is Strange and you haven't played Goodbye Volcano High yet, definitely give it a go. It is all those good vibes and also its own thing. And what more can you really ask of it?
Yes. Great music too.
Oh yeah,
I was going to say one of the best soundtracks of the year. I think what's it called? Is it Going Away or Pretty Heroes? Maybe they're both songs, but I do listen to them and
I like Don't Call.
Tear Up. Don't Call is beautiful. It's one of the best soundtracks of the year.
And
Lachlan
Angel.
Watson, their performance is stunning. What I really liked about this game is it really captured the inherent sadness and grief of growing up in a way that very few games do, but
that's so
mixed
true.
in with this sort of post-pandemic traumatic feeling towards lost time. And it was a very complex and multi-layered game. Maybe a little bit messy for me to put it in my personal top 5, but it was very close.
That's such a good way of describing it, and like it for sure is messy. But you know me, I live in the especially like the emotional messiness of games is where I really start to click with things. So I think that probably is the thing that put it in my top 5, even it was like just a little bit.
And I think honestly, that like slight abrasiveness, not even abrasiveness, I think that's like choppiness. Almost as a positive. It's almost in its favor in some ways. I think it just highlights those core narrative themes. But yeah, stunning game, an absolutely beautiful thing to look at.
It looks amazing as well. It's like it.
Yeah.
You know, it basically is fully animated. I was expecting a visual novel. It is a fully animated. Like, what is an FMV? But it's a cartoon. We don't really have a word for that yet. But you know, it's kind of that style. It's the FMV style in that you're limited interactions with what's going on screen, but it's, you know, fully animated as a cartoon. I don't know. Yeah. There's not many games that do that at the moment because they're either fully interactive or they're static or FMV. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it'll punch you in the feels.
It'll punch you in the feels, and no one is like all
safe,
all good or all bad in that game, and I like that a lot. That's where I like my characters.
Yes,
with a little bit of complexity to them. So yeah, there's my second pick. Is that where we're at? Yeah, Liam.
Two good picks. I will go next. Yeah, I'd actually forgotten what your picks were, both of you. So every time you're about to say something, I'm like, oh, I'm genuinely excited.
To be fair.
Much like you, listener. So my second pick is Pizza Tower. Pizza Tower is by Tour de Pizza, which is a great name for a developer. This came out in January. This game got a huge following really fast. But at the same time, I don't feel like I've heard many people talk about it in the second half of the year, which is probably quite common because, you know, it's a single-player story game. You don't play these things forever. But it's a shame to not see it celebrated a little bit more, because I do think this is, as is evident by its place on my list, one of the best games of this year. So you play as, you're going to have to bear with me here while I try and explain what this game is. You play as Peppino Spaghetti, a chef, and from what I can tell, the story is that an evil pizza called Pizza Face, that is, a pizza with a face, is threatening to destroy Peppino's pizza restaurant using a laser that's on top of his pizza tower. So you have to climb the pizza tower to defeat Pizza Face. And if that sounds a little bit wacky, yeah, that's the whole game. The whole game is just pure wackiness. It's styled like a 90s cartoon, a little bit like Ren and Stimpy. It's just very expressive and dumb. But, I mean, immediately, you'll just realize that this game is so fucking funny. Like, it feels like the game took the amount of time it took to come out. I think it was in development for a while because the developer was just stuffing visual gags into every inch of this game, and it all pays off. Like, everything Peppino does is funny. Every animation, there's a button like to dodge attacks in this game. You press a button and he just does like a goofy little pause and it plays like a funny sound. And every level has a different theme. Each level's crammed with like unique items and animations and enemies, and all of them have jokes about them. It's like nothing was put in the game if it didn't add or increase the humor in somewhere. So this is a 2D platformer that's really heavily inspired by the Wario Land series, specifically Wario Land 4 on the GBA. You run through each level collecting pizza ingredients to get more points until you reach a column with a face, and then you've got to punch it, and then it's a race against the clock to go all the way back to the entrance while this incredibly stressful piece of music plays. I think I'll play that at the start of this section. And if you don't reach the end before that timer runs out, it's game over. And as you're running back, your score is decreasing. Initially, I bounced off this game really hard. I did not like it for the first hour or so I played it. So Peppino was like really snappy and responsive as a character, but it just felt like whenever you were gaining speed, I was hitting literal walls. So I would like do a jump, or I would like try and dash. A dash is like a really important move in the game where you've got to run and then jump on a wall to run up the wall. And I just felt like the game was constantly stopping me from reaching the speed and the flow state I wanted to hit. So I came back, I put it down, I came back to it a few months later on the Steam Deck, and I realized that stop-start nature isn't a hindrance or a flaw, it's what makes this game magic. If you move past the really funny art and the great music, I think this game combines a sense of speed and fluidity with like methodical, careful decision-making in a way that very few platformers do. And the result is this platformer that feels really speedy and weighty, where like every single button press has like genuine consequences. And it's just utter madness as a game.
It
Like the
looks
fact this thing
unhinged.
exists,
Oh,
it's
it
so
does.
unhinged. It's like it's just like watching a Cartoon Network cartoon in the early 2000s. Cow and Chicken, Courage the Cowardly Dog. It has all of that prestige from those cartoons. Honestly, I just can't fault it. It ended up being not only one of the best games of the year that I played, but maybe one of the best games I've ever played. I think it's just absolutely sensational. And yeah, Pizza Tower. If you've not played it, you've got to give it a try. It's bloody brilliant.
I think if you give it 2 tries, because it was the same as you. I played it once, bounced off it, not for me, but I really need to give it another go because 2 tries, because I think the first time I think everyone feels a bit the same.
Yeah.
It's a bit like I couldn't get a handle on the controls. It was just going way too fast, but this is the pure chaotic energy of Peppino. It's like I want to know more about Peppino, and I want to know more about how unhinged he is. So I need to go back and give it another go because there is just this vibe about this game that is like, yeah, I wasn't into it at first, but I need to go back and give it another go. God,
some of the most powerful relationships you can have with media, I find as well, are the things that you initially thought you were going to hate.
Yes,
like that's subversion of expectation. Is like it sticks in your mind so much, right? It is a powerful feeling in itself, that feeling of like really coming around to something that you were prepared to really dislike.
Yes,
100%.
It's almost like the inversion of how I feel about Goodbye Volcano High, where it's like probably its biggest flaw is that it's almost forgettable because I went in with expectations that were met so perfectly. Whereas that's
an interesting way of putting it. Yeah, I guess if it doesn't challenge you in some way.
I think this just demonstrates we're getting a good spread of opinions on things here.
Rachel, didn't you hit Paradise Killer when you first played it as well?
You would not believe it.
Yeah.
I played the demo, thought, absolutely not. It looks hideous. I hate everything about it. It's confusing. I don't get it. Yeah, that was such a turnaround. And obviously now it's like one of my favorite games ever.
My related funny story is that the character that I've spent all year cross-stitching onto things, Pross being my favourite character in all of media from Danganronpa, was the character that I hated so much at the start of the game.
It's funny.
So funny how that happens.
Yeah, and now I've got him on a keyring, he's on a t-shirt, I've been cross-stitching him.
My god. I feel that way about Peppino. But I want Peppino on a t-shirt. Fangamer, I know they do good bitch.
Fangamer.
Fangamer, sponsor us, Fangamer.
I need Peppino, dude. Do you know what? He's a vibe. He's a very 2023 vibe. He's he needs to sit.
Vibe.
I'm like, Peppino, come here. Sit down and have a Capri Sun and just chill, please, Peppino. Peppino, calm down.
The desire
that is a vibe.
to give a character just a drink and have them calm down.
Yeah, I want to nurture him.
It's so real. Yeah, it's very real.
He seems like a really great guy as well. Peppino, video game character 2023.
Okay,
absolute
right.
Icon.
Put it on the episode list. Characters you want to give a beverage and a pat on the back to and just calm them down for a minute. That's a list in itself.
A little fruit shoot.
a little fruit shoot for
a little
Peppino
fruit
spaghetti.
shoot Peppino, yeah.
That's a unique sentence right there.
There we go.
Amazing.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's a great pick, though. I think many would agree with you. That game has got so many overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it got so big. I'm looking at the Fangamer merch right now, by the way. They do a Gnome Forest poster. I need that immediately.
There's a pin that's a pizza box that you can open.
Oh, yeah, and it lifts up.
Oh, that's
It's
magical.
so good.
Yeah, it's good merch.
I love
It's good
that.
merch. Good merch.
It's just got that sense of style. We spoke about this on our success episode about games that gain a life beyond simple critical and and consumer success.
Yes.
And stretches out into just not I guess meme in its most dictionary definition of the term. And Peppino and Pizza
Peppino
Tower.
I just thought you might be going in the direction of he's surpassed the physical realm into the
Yeah,
spiritual
no, he has.
realm.
Yeah.
Ascended.
Peppino is God.
Oh, man.
Oh God.
And on that note, Rachel, what's your number
Right?
3?
We could stay on this all night, but we should move on for now.
My third pick. Wow. My third pick is Peppino. Is my third pick
Oh, God.
is the Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood. Cosmic wheel. Cosmic wheel. So yeah, 2023 was a fantastic year for visual novels. We've already mentioned Goodbye Volcano High, which was incredible. There was the absolute queer nightmare that is Mediterranean Inferno, which I fucking loved. I also loved Sea Salt Chronicles, which was this kind of strange seafaring journey where you visit different communities in a post-calamity world. But my favorite out of all of them, apart from maybe one Rebecca will mention later, because it was very close to being in my list, so close. But my other favorite visual novel this year was, yes, Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood by Deconstruct Team. Again, talked about it before, but same old. I would love to talk about it again, because I really like this game. It's a visual novel where you play as a young witch called Fortuna, who she predicts the downfall of her coven through her tarot reading, and then gets exiled onto a meteor because, apparently covens don't like hearing that they're going to have a massive downfall. And so she has been exiled to live out a millennia in total and utter isolation on in a little house on a meteorite. So, staying in one place can seriously fuck you up. So in her 200th year of her exile, she decides to break one of the ultimate laws of witchhood and sisterhood and summon a god. And after the two kind of shoot the shit and talk about how being forced into isolation absolutely sucks, they make a pact with each other. Fortuna gets new tarot card deck with new abilities, and the god just gets to kind of take part in shits and giggles because he's bored, I guess. What follows is a story that kind of touches upon the limits of player choice, but also the ripple effect your choices can have in a game's world. And the amount of choices in this game is incredible. There's so many different directions you can go in terms of character creation. You can make your own tarot cards, and each time you make a card, you can attribute it to different kind of tarot readings and meanings. And there's people who visit you to get tarot readings, and the questions they ask and how you play out your tarot deck, you can infer different futures, potential fates for these characters, which may or may not come true. But ultimately, this game is quite melancholy in that, we touched upon it earlier, but it definitely is a post-pandemic trauma kind of game. This one person has been isolated; they can't leave
Yeah.
their home, and it's kind of like the personal aftermath. I think there's been a lot of calamity games this year as well that kind of deal with like oncoming disaster, and like Goodbye Volcano High, this is like it's not on the world like size, but like the more personal aftermath of someone going through that. And as something that it's all something we share, like we all went through this event, and Fortuna is a character because of the many choices that you can kind of pick how she behaves and how she acts. So it's really interesting. When I was playing as her, I found myself really relating to her situation and becoming quite angry about it. And so I made her like, oh yeah, I want one of her goals was I want people to fear me. Oh, what do you want to do about your coven? Well, I pray for their downfall. Like they should, like I want them all to die. And like I was really bitter and twisted that I played like the way I was playing her. And I think there are other ways to do it as well. You can play her as kind of melancholy and as kind of hopeful as well. But it's really a weird kind of mirror of like what I was going through, or many people were going through during the pandemic, through this character and the way that she reacts to her situation and the feelings that she has of going through an event that necessarily like wasn't your own doing or you had no control over. And so this is quite a intense game because of that. If you'd like to read it in that way, I think I had a chat with the devs, and that is totally intentional how they wanted it to come across, but you can interpret whatever you like from it. And yeah, it's just a really great visual novel that is pretty heavy. It handles its topics incredibly. Yeah, I found myself in this game. I kind of like processed, not like deep process, but like processed a lot of feelings through this game and this character. And yeah, it's just a very unique experience that I had. And I think many others, maybe it's not so unique. I think others have taken the same thing from the game. But yeah, Deconstruct team, you've done it again. Woo! Absolutely knocked out the park.
I only really have one thing to bring to this conversation at this point, and that is that genuinely one of my biggest regrets of 2023 is that I did not manage to find time to play the Cosmic Will Sisterhood, despite having it installed on my Steam Deck since like late September, early October. I've just not managed to find time to wedge it in sideways. It is top of my list to check out because I genuinely think this could have upset my rankings if I'd had time to play it. Is it worth saying at this point, actually, that we are going to do a little bit of a revisit in, we think maybe April, to
absolutely
give ourselves a bit of time to catch up on the games we
yeah.
missed, and we're gonna see if the final tally for Games of the Year 2023 has changed, and I'm really gonna try and play Cosmic Will Sisterhood for then so that I can see where it all stacks up, because everything I've heard about it has totally backed up the opinion that I've heard from everyone that I've talked to about it, which is that it is a great game in general and a game that I particularly will love. So I look forward to it. Genuinely sad that I've not played it yet.
Same.
Yes, it's pretty heavy though, so watch out. It has a pretty weird second half, which I'm not sure. It definitely changes direction in like the second half of the game, which is a bit which I know some people liked and other people thought was a bit, well, you had something great going, why did you change direction? I personally liked it, but that was the only kind of like kind of footnote of people were like when people were talking about the game, was that it does take a slightly weird Inscription-esque direction.
Ooh, okay.
Not so full break here, all that, but just in terms of like, oh, am I playing a different game now?
Wow, okay.
But
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
I didn't know that
for
part,
me,
so that's cool.
Yeah, for me, the first couple of hours are completely, good, amazing. Solidified its place on my list. So yeah, what a game.
Related slightly, but I think I won't be the only one among the people listening who will think this, but I would love for you, Rachel, to lead an episode at some point about post-pandemic indie games.
Oh my
because
God.
it's something you've identified so many times this year, and I think there's some really interesting chat to be had about this, about what is it? I can never remember the name of it.
Mediterranean
Inferno.
Oh.
Mediterranean Inferno.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'd love to have that chat. I think it'd be really interesting.
It is so interesting. And this is something that like, just because freelance, I've just been getting back into interviewing developers now, which has been really nice because I didn't do much of that at the other site. So it's just something that I've really enjoyed. But yeah, there's just this not surprising at all when you think about it, this ongoing conversation about not only the ways that the pandemic has affected like developers economically, financially, and all that success, but just in the themes and the way that games have changed over the course of like 2019 to 2022, the different directions that they took and how different games changed. And this is one of those games. This is one of those games where the devs at one point were like, we're putting ourselves in this game and it's great and we love that, but also we also need a break. Like I interviewed them like a month or two after this release and they were so tired, bless them, and they deserve deconstructing. You need to rest. This is an absolutely amazing game. They're now collaborating with another indie studio to make these really gorgeous itch games, but yeah, rest, because this is iconic, this game is amazing, but please get the rest you need. And that's a common story amongst a lot of people, the devs that released. But yeah, love it. So good.
We should definitely
play
genuinely pencil in that episode as well.
You too. Play it.
Okay, I'll play it.
We're going
Please.
to. We promise. Yeah, this was definitely the year when all those themes really came out. Like, obviously, the development cycle from things people were going through in 2020 really came out this year. It kind of links into my theory, too, that the reason that locked room murder mystery games have got so big again is because we were all locked in thinking about murdering each other for like a year and a half. It's kind of like the lighter and also much darker side of that. But, I think it comes out in a lot of ways. But that across the board, though, so many games from like the very serious to the very lighthearted have kind of dealt with that. They genuinely have dealt with those themes this year. And yeah, I'm going to put that in the spreadsheet, Rachel. You're doing it. It's happening.
Yay!
Putting you forward for that
to.
episode, definitely.
Been volunteered.
Rebecca.
It's me again.
It's you again.
Yes, and as Rachel alluded to in her last pick, mine is another visual novel, although very different in terms of like tone and content. It's Videoverse. This is a game that happily I just managed to finish in time to record this episode, so that made me very happy.
Nice.
But I don't think this is a recency bias issue, because it was genuinely when I finished this game a few nights ago, I was like lying on my sofa feeling a little bit poorly, I was on my Steam Deck, and I just like had that moment where you finish a game or a book or whatever and you just kind of put it down and you're like, it's so hard to describe the feelings that I was going through. But it was like a good feeling. It was like a happy feeling. I think it's because that game is so perfectly nostalgic for specifically my age group and demographic.
Yes.
So Videoverse is set in 2003. And it follows a group of teenagers who meet through this online sort of early social media platform called Videoverse, which is tied into a gaming platform, which is not Nintendo, essentially. And it's a very, very gentle story, really, in most ways. It is quite reflective, quite contemplative, and very realistic. Other than sort of one little side story, nothing happened in that game that I didn't kind of recognize from my own early experiences as a young teenager on social media in kind of that time period. And it could kind of just lean on nostalgia, but it does in the end go further than that, I think. And the thing that ended up kind of really resonating with me in the end was that I don't think this may be a minor spoiler, and I don't think I don't think
I think I know what you're going on about. Mm-hmm.
Anyone's enjoyment of the game, but it is ultimately about the point of view character. Emmett becomes someone who works in the games industry as a result of the experiences that he has in this story as a teenager, and obviously that's something that all three of us can relate to as well. And I liked as well that he doesn't necessarily, I think you can, like, your choices affect this. His role changes depending on how you behaved as him as a teenager, like the sort of area that he goes into and specializes. And I just thought that was, like, very realistic. You meet characters who go into game dev because of their love for games, and they don't all become, like, trying to think of the name of a superstar game developer who's not, like, hugely problematic, and I'm just completely blanking, but you know what I mean. We're not talking about people who, you know, we're not talking about, like, the big auteurs. We're talking about people who do, you know, the kind of background, literally sometimes, like, background jobs, just for love of the industry and for love of making something to mean to other people, you know, the way that games have meant to them and have helped pull them through, like, difficult times and created that sense of community. And I don't think that's a huge ending spoiler. Like, it would be really hard to spoiler this game because really it is just about exploring this platform and exploring the relationships between characters and kind of, like, finding your way around it at your own pace. So hopefully that's not created any issues for anybody, but I had to mention it because I was enjoying this game throughout, but when I kind of realized not only is this a game that I relate to so hard as a teenager of the 2000s, but also as someone who then, like, went through the quite hard fight to get into games, you know, games media professionally as well. It left me with so many feelings, and, like, feeling quite seen, I guess, and quite validated. And, you know, it is just really beautiful and so realistic. As I said, there's one little subplot that kind of gets a little bit, like, more dramatic, but most of the time it's just very, very realistic interactions between very relatable characters, all of whom I really liked. Things never go as well or as badly as they usually would in overblown fiction. And if you are sort of in your, like, early 30s like us, it is probably going to be really, really, like, nostalgic for you too.
Yeah, Videoverse was so close coming in my top 5, so I'm really happy we're talking about it.
I feel like you almost wrote it out because you knew I was picking it, so you're like, oh, that's one that I don't have
maybe but I'm so happy you included it, because this Videoverse is, like, such a time capsule of a moment.
Yes,
like, it just evokes a certain time period, like, but, like, you touched upon it a bit, like, it is nostalgic, but it also is timeless in the topics that it touches upon. So yes, I can see myself in it, but also, like, this story about, like, how a community or how people find companionship and friendship through games and they come together as well. It's just, like, so astute to point out, and, like, that was what our formative years online were about. Like, I was like on forums, like, looking for Ace Attorney people, strangers to talk about that game with, and, like, I just, there's just something about it. And you know what is, oh my god, and, like, I don't want to get, again, you've done a great job of, like kind of avoiding some of the main topics, but it's also, like, a really lovely story about, like, how these online friendships can kind of slowly change into, like, support networks for us, especially when you learn to, like, lean on people and these kind of, you know, you talk shit posting and how hot people are in games or whatever you used to do online, definitely not me, and then they turn into friendships, and then you rely on each other and you support each other as you get to know, and it's just really Videoverse is so fucking good, good. Lucy
so
Blundell, so good.
Genuinely couldn't not mention this one. So good.
Yeah, good pick.
This is one I really wanted to try and finish, but couldn't, just because of changing jobs and other sort of priorities this year, unfortunately. But the hour I played of this is part of our judging on the panel for the Indie Cup over the summer. Just playing an hour of this, and I was like, yeah, this would probably be in my top 5 if I played the whole game. So I'm really happy to see it represented here, and cannot wait to play it for myself, because it was just like everything you've said. Yes, that's a bit of me, as the kids might say.
Oh, that's a bit of me. Yeah.
Oh god, is that what they say? I don't know.
I don't think they do anymore, Rebecca. I think that was probably
no, am
the
I
generation.
2 generations out
that's
on my
aged out.
teen slang? Oh no. Oh no. Quickly, move on, Rachel.
Who's next? Who
Is it me?
Oh, sorry, it's
I
Liam,
think
not
it's me.
Rachel. I do apologise. I was so hurt by the suggestion that I might not be down with the kids.
just cut Liam out.
Yeah.
Slag, yeah. Liam, you're not allowed. No more of you.
Yeah, sorry. No, I'm just going to go recapture the brain cell. I'm going to get it back in here and we'll carry on.
If you
It's
could
like
net
it's
it, that would be
escaped.
great, yeah.
Yeah.
It keeps getting out. It's over there somewhere. I'm trying to sort of entice
like
it back
Ape
over.
Escape with the net.
I don't know why, but in my head it was Bunga from Bug Snacks as our shared
Oh,
brain cell.
God. I don't.
better.
Oh, is she about to pull a plushie out? Of course she
Oh,
is.
amazing. Amazing.
Booga.
Oh, that's better than my
Okay,
choice.
the best one is banana, which is like a banana that flies through the air. Banana. Honest. Oh my god, I love Bug
Incredible.
Snacks.
It's better than my pick, which is the brain thing from the start of Baldur's Gate 3 that like can join your party, is it?
Ooh.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes,
like the
Lance,
little
remember.
little freak.
Yeah, the little freak.
I like both. They have similar vibes, that brain and Bunga, I must admit. They are on the same.
Yeah,
you can
it's
make
like a
link
little
between them.
little brain dog that just runs around and does stuff. Yeah. Oh, there it is.
That Bunga plush is so good. Is that a Fangamer special by any chance?
Oh, you know it is. Look
Oh,
at
Fangamer,
that.
sponsor us.
Please, please.
Just one
sake.
Pizza Tower t-shirt,
Yeah,
Fangame. That's
we
all we're
really
asking
do.
for.
One
What
one pizza grease soaked pizza tower t-shirt in a
One
pizza box.
used pizza tower.
Oh,
One by Pepino.
I want
Oh.
Pepino to bless the shirt. I meant with pizza grease.
it wasn't.
No.
That wasn't the issue.
Oh,
Oh dear.
God
Oh,
almighty.
Liam, please.
My next game is El Paso Elsewhere.
They turned a man to a beast right in front of me. The only warmth that I see steams from his sleeve so bloodily. He's naked, see a black man pounding the pavement. Every crack in the ground is a burden. He's taking their place in beds, spending their jets. Thin-haired bastards craving sweat, salivating on a human marionette. Nervous fingers grip the cage they built and shake it. I want this man to help me break it.
If not for me, for himself. But I doubt that the torture is aware of his health. I want wealth, cause the goal of this age is to be the panting evil out there rattling the cage. I want help, if not for us, for our kin. And the little dead is damned before they ever begin. I want wealth, cause the goal of this age is to be the panting evil out there rattling the cage.
I've been so fucking excited for you to talk about this fucking game.
I know, right?
I'm so fucking
Same.
excited.
We have not really spoke about
God
this.
damn
But
it.
let's see if
I
I
wanna
can
hear you talk
encapsulate our feelings.
Oh,
This is a game by Strange Scaffold. In it, you play as a hard-boiled paranormal investigator called James Savage, who travels to a no-name motel in El Paso in order to stop the vampire Dracula from ending the world. One small twist, or one small problem, Dracula is Savage's ex-girlfriend, which forms the backbone of this game. So, moment to moment, and the thing that appealed to me about El Paso, I said old El Paso.
Pizza
Not
Tower's got
again.
us hungry, and now we're just in the mindset.
So the thing that drew me to this game originally is that this is a Max Payne style third-person shooter, a type of game that we don't really see much of these days. So moment to moment, you leap around tightly designed environments, shooting werewolves, vampires, suits of armor, and undead brides, using a variety of weapons, and you're able to trigger slow motion at any point. It is one of the best shooters of the year. I really vibed with it on a mechanical level. It's really
Nice.
fast and responsive. It's really challenging and fun. Death comes really quickly, but thankfully checkpoints are plenty. And also it has some superb accessibility settings. You can just put on God mode if you want to literally
Oh,
just race
real?
through this game and enjoy
Yeah.
it in any way you want. Very granular. This is how
Nice.
much, damage I do. This is how much health I regain from my pills. And again, like Max Payne, it has all the sort of tropes of Max Payne in there. You've got this gravelly voiced main character, voiced by the game's creator, Xavier Nelson Jr., who you may know as Twitter's indie sweetheart. Absolutely
Really is.
a great Twitter follow. You
Fantastic.
pop pills constantly to regain your health, just like Max Payne. And it all takes place within this motel in El Paso, but Dracula's ritual has summoned this void that twists and corrupts this hotel into something that's unusual yet very familiar. And it ends up drawing upon the memories and traumas of both Savage and Dracula the deeper you venture into it. It's very Remedy in that style. I think it's captured not just the
Giving
mechanics
me big Remedy vibes with
of
this,
Max Payne. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, you can't just do a Max Payne style game without also capturing that Remedy spirit. And I really think that's why El Paso Elsewhere really shines. It's styled after PS1 games, so it has a really distinct art style. So, for example, the roof of the hotel is always absent. So even though you're fighting through these very tight corridors and it feels very claustrophobic, it also feels very endless and cosmic and grand. And it's a really interesting parallel. But my favorite thing about it is the story. And this is the thing that really impacted me. Narratively, this is maybe the game that's had the biggest effect on me, because this is a story about an abusive relationship between Savage and Dracula. Dracula did not treat James in a way that could be considered nice or fair, but it handles this relationship with a lot of nuance and care. And I've just never really seen it done in a game before. And especially in a game that is fundamentally like a 2000 style action shooter. And that parallel between the two things is really, really powerful. And, you know, it's a game about Draculas and werewolves, and it's about what it means to love a monster. And I just think abstracting that is really interesting, because Dracula was once Janet Drake, and you learn about who Janet Drake was, and you also learn about who Dracula is. And I sort of felt like by having this abstracted, twisted, void-like world that you travel into was almost a bit like journeying into the heart of trauma itself. Like knowing full well that doing that's going to hurt and like cut you and you'll bleed, but maybe there's no other way to heal. And it sort of has this like feeling of these two people who did once love each other, but also caused irreparable damage meeting each other and unpacking things, but at the end of the world. Like, James knows that he's the only one that can prevent Dracula from killing everything, but has to deal with this deep-rooted trauma in order to do it. Like, he's going to die doing this. And it's just delivered beautifully. Honestly, the voice acting by Nelson and Dracula is voiced by someone called M. Montgomery. They are both just absolutely firing on all cylinders here. And to say anything else about the game would be spoiling it. It has 2 endings, both of which are incredible. Yeah, honestly, this game was a real surprise for me. I think it's a 5 out of 5 game. Absolutely stunning. Rachel, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
So, oh my God, I was the same. I think you brought it up on the podcast a while ago. Because I remember you talking about it and being like, oh, not really my thing. Started hearing kind of what the story's about. It's totally not my kind of game at all. So, like with those settings, I've put it on custom, where I take less damage. It's story mode. That's the one. I take less damage. I have unfillable. I still have to take medicine to heal, but I don't have to, chug back a bottle of pills when I want to heal. And also I have limitless bullets, just because I was really interested in the story of the game. My God, this story is unbelievable. It's like you said, it's like, and this is the kind of guy who's like, God closes the door, but the devil opens a window. Like, he is so like, I don't know, like Repo Man, like far, like it's just not my kind of dude. Because I'm just like, he's cool, okay, but I'm just a bit like, oh, I don't know. But it's just kind of like these layers of like what essentially is very like a masculine man being like slowly, or this masculine like archetype being like slowly peeled back. And like, there's just this one moment where like, you just like, there's obviously like emotional abuse happening in this like relationship. To the point where, James talks about Janet even though Janet's not really, she doesn't exist anymore. Like it's an idea, or it's a memory of a person who is not that person anymore. And there's just this moment where I think it's like that you can come across recordings, and there's like the smashing of dishes, and I honestly had such a visceral, like it was horrible. But also, this game is really fun. Shooty good times. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just that combination of, oh my God. And it's just so, like you said, effortlessly done. And the voice acting is so good. And like, he raps. The music is the best soundtrack of the whole fucking year. Sorry, Bomber Cyberpunk.
Really
love you, babe, but there's a new boy in town, and like it's like so good. And sometimes your action melts into the music, and like the void like kind of like is like it gets all murky and it swallows you up. And there's like a corridor of chairs at one point, and you're like shooting this corridor of chairs, and all these chairs are flying around, and it's just so good. And I was so surprised. I did not think this game would be for me, but yeah, it's like, oh God. But violence and action, but also drug addiction and toxic relationships. And it's just like, God damn, this game. Absolutely
I'm so happy
incredible.
you enjoyed it.
Yeah. If this, okay, but if that's not your kind of thing, do what I do. Put it on story mode. You can put it on invincibility. Just whap that that setting down. And just try this game. Like, it is it's just really good. Great story.
I haven't played it yet, but I just do want to jump in with my potentially slightly controversial take here, which is that in its accessibility alone, I feel like El Paso Elsewhere has out-remedied Remedy. And, like, I speak as someone who desperately wants to love Remedy games, but has bounced off every single one I play because I just cannot... I don't feel like their gameplay style ever meshes quite right with the story they want to tell, in my opinion. And coming back to it later with like, we like dropped the difficulty or whatever. Sorry, Remedy, it's never really worked for me. Whereas this has that baked in so considerately, and it's important in stories like this. And you've probably heard me bang on about this in the podcast before, to make them accessible to everyone and like playable within comfort levels when you're dealing with serious topics like this. So yeah, I'm gonna be controversial. Say I've not played it yet. I feel like it might be my favorite Remedy game.
Well, what's interesting is that I actually think playing it with the accessibility settings sort of like tuned to make it easier, quote unquote, is maybe the best way of playing this game, because then you get this extra meta layer of this man who is capable of committing incredible acts of violence, showing vulnerability and expressing how he's been hurt. And I just think that is almost part of the thematic cornerstone of the game. And,
that is like chef's kiss. That is so good.
Also, fuck that elevator. That elevator is a bully.
Oh, yeah. That'll make no sense, but if you've played it, you'll be like, yeah, fuck that elevator.
I can't believe the audacity of what that fucking elevator said to James. I never wanted to beat up an elevator so much in my life. Girl.
Awful.
Awful.
It's so good. Yeah, you'll have to seek it out, Rebecca. I think
I definitely will. As I say, it just sounds like
that story. The story.
I want
so much. Great game for your list. For our list.
Brilliant game.
Such a
our
good
list. Our collective
It's
list. Our
the
list.
group
It's our
list.
list now.
I made that list for everyone.
God damn.
Rachel. You ready
Rachel.
to go in with your last. Is this the last round of individual picks? Cool.
It is. So my last pick is something that I played very recently. It was the longest game I've played this year. It was In Stars and Time.
I like how you're giving these games their own like almost like 1970s comedy theme songs. Like,
God, yeah. Even the most heavy ones, just like, oh, cosmic wheel, cosmic wheel.
she's a witch and he's a god. Sorry, go on.
Sorry.
Like Buddy Cop. They want to commit masses, atrocities, kill the sisterhood. Yeah. Cheeky banter, fun times.
This is going to make
does
no
that to
sense
you.
unless we keep all of these little tunes in.
Gonna keep them in, I think. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So I recently played In Stars and Time. I dedicated all of my November to this game. It's quite a beastly game. It's 20 hours. Every review, every piece of writing I've seen about this game, people play it and they cannot stop thinking about it. This game does that to you. It's a time looping RPG where kind of the TLDR is that you play as a main character who remembers every loop, every time loop. And it's the consequences of that character experiencing the same day over and over and over again. Kind of like Groundhog Day, but in game form, and also in a way that's kind of like, it's gonna hit you in the feels, make you not feel so good sometimes, but also is really uplifting and hopeful, and the characters are amazing. Like, the story follows this like adventuring party who kind of like follow your classic RPG group, and the beginning of the game is the last day of their journey. They have been on the RPG journey. This last day is them going into the castle, fighting through it, and defeating the king, who has stopped all of the country. It has been stopped in time, and so they're on the last leg. This is the last part, is where we start our journey, and so we play as Sifrin, who is kind of like the quote unquote rogue of the party, and yeah, they gain this power in which they're able to, when they die, they loop back to the afternoon before that day. So a loop will look like them waking up from a nap in the afternoon, and then the loop will restart when they die or meet their end in literal or metaphorical. It's kind of one of those games. So it's an RPG, so a lot of it is you fighting through this castle. It's turn-based, so there's like a rock, paper, scissors aspect to it where each character will have an affinity to one of those elements, and just as rock, paper, scissors works, you the way you fight is by trumping the enemy with certain attacks. This group of characters, I love them so much. They are, when you meet them, they all know each other very well. The dynamic is so on point. Like, I love each and every one of them. There's 5 people in total. They're queer as fuck. There's excellent ace representation, which I was not expecting, but absolutely living for. So if you're into that, definitely check this one out. But the thing that really stands out is the looping mechanic and how it's implemented. There'll be times where you'll accidentally loop because you'll die, or you'll be forced to loop, or you purposefully loop. So that it could be you're looping to solve a puzzle, or you want to reach a new area of the game, of the area, or for story reasons, you'll loop. And it's just interesting having, playing a game in which you are playing through and learning from your mistakes, but your character is also remembering your mistakes and their mistakes, and kind of the psychological effect that would have on someone going through that. And so, yeah, the structure is you going to defeat the king, but what happens when that journey ends? And it's just really interesting, and it's a very dense game. There's so much lore to learn. Oh my God. But also, yeah, it gets pretty dark at times if you're into story, like if you're into Undertale or Amori or One Shot, like these kind of like RPG games which are like, oh, we're kind of cute, lol, JK, we're gonna punch you in the feels. Then you'll definitely want to play this game. If you like, this is kind of game that if you like cute RPGs that will absolutely fuck your shit up, you need to play In Stars and Time. It's a very, if my list was ordered, this would be near the top for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I love this
that is
game.
a genre. That is a genre.
That is a genre. It is such a genre. So yeah, this is the 2023 official entry of the cute but will majorly fuck your shit up. Yeah. Love it. I've been on the Discord. Oh god, I've been following like people talking about it on the Discord, and not every night, but like most nights. I've just been like looking at Discord, looking at people chat about this game, and like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't notice that. Oh, it's like different endings. So good.
In with the lore.
I know. I'm like Rebecca. I'm like paying attention. I'm proper in the lore. I'm like, is this what Rebecca feels like all the time with every game she ever plays? Like I feel like I have like I'm like, oh my god, there's like, but this game facilitates that. Like there's so much to learn, and there's like this kingdom and the characters and like different rooms in the castle, like and the looping, like what's the deal with that? Like how did that come about? And it's it's so good. I love it. Yeah.
This has like caught you off guard, hasn't it? Like I feel like
absolutely.
You weren't expecting this to enrapture you as much as it has.
It was like one of those games where I was like, I know I'm gonna play this and I'm absolutely gonna love it. But it's like it released quite suddenly and I was like, ooh, this looks interesting. And it was like, oh god, I feel like I'm gonna really like this game. Like I knew. I could tell. I was like, I'm gonna, but yes, so good.
Nice.
I mean, you've convinced me.
Right, same. I was like, what can I say other than that I'm sold? Next time I have 20 hours free, I can't wait to get destroyed by this game. So,
I can't wait to get destroyed. That is the right approach. This game, dude.
Start as you mean to go on. I can't wait for this to take me to pieces emotionally.
There's just one wholesome moment that I think won't spoil too much or give much away. But Sifrin is just quite like a general quiet character, and they love puns and they're very adorable. But there's a moment where all of these other characters who are very energetic are like chatting about something. I have no idea what. And there's just a moment where Sifrin's just like, it's nice not being in a group of friends and not having to contribute, but being included. And I was like, stop.
Wow.
This game, like it just understands. Sifrin is such an interesting character, and it's the same with all the others. Like they are so relatable and kind to each other, and also like they care about each other a lot, but also they're not like soppy. They're very much their own people, and Sifrin is. I knew that moment. I was like,
that is so well observed, and you never hear that sort of nuance acknowledged in media. It's such a rare point of view, but I think one that I know I can really identify with. I'm guessing that you guys probably can too. And that is,
it's good.
I mean, you've made a sale. What can I say?
It's interesting to like hear about an RPG where all of the party members are already like friends.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's like happened before in the past, but to start the game as it ends, it represents like a very interesting narrative challenge. That sounds like they've succeeded in having the stakes still be weighty, and obviously to have that arc at the end of a journey that you sort of only see at the very end, and it is fascinating. I need to play this. It sounds so cool.
Yeah, because like even this idea about the RPG party, like you are not the chosen one. There is a character, the cutest character, Mirabelle. She is the chosen one. Like, and it's like,
nice.
So you're just the rogue. You're like the rogue, but she is the one, and she's adorable, and she is the one who's like the time. Like, she's from the castle. Giving a little bit away. She's from the castle, and she's very much like, it didn't affect me. And why is that? And it's like her personal journey dealing with that, like being this like, what happens when you are the chosen one? And like, that's what I mean. It's so good. They all support each other. It's great.
That is fantastic. I'm like hooked on games that cast you as a traditionally NPC role in RPGs as well. I'm really obsessed with that as a subgenre. But yeah, I just also love the idea of this RPG that's like, as you say, dealing with a group that are kind of at the true companions phase, and like, you know, like obviously thinking a lot about Baldur's Gate 3 at the moment, but like having gone through the, you know, Shadowheart and Lae'zel want to kill each other phase, and to the point where they're like, you know, like actually, you know, let's be besties, let's be sisters, whatever. And like, I'd love that as a perspective for sure. Oh man,
yeah, it's brilliant.
So many good games to play. This episode is just giving me a crisis about the number of good games
I know
that there are out there to play. Speaking
Rebecca,
of, shall I
do you have a seg? Do you have a cheeky little seg? a seg to...
I don't think I do this time. Like, most of our picks have been quite aligned in some way or another, and I guess the only seg I've got here really is that it's quite different from the other games that I've talked about so far. In that it doesn't have a story, it doesn't have set characters, it's just very open. I'm going back to possibly the first game I talked about on a podcast with you guys and talking about Tiny Life.
Oh, wow!
Yes!
Nice.
Yes!
Full circle, baby!
Full circle. The game that I first played, I think it might be almost exactly a year ago, actually. I downloaded the demo like the day I got home for Christmas break last year. And yeah, it's probably my individual like indie game of the year. I'm like still so obsessed with it after nearly a year. So if you don't know what Tiny Life is, because you've not heard me like bang on about it before, like listen, it's good. So my first and probably last listen. Yes, I always like to say like my first gaming love was The Sims. It'll probably be my last. I kind of dip in and out of it. EA's like huge mega franchise, but it's kind of always ticking away in the background for me. And Tiny Life is a really beautiful solo devs pixel art recreation, kind of mostly riffing on like the first Sims in terms of the way that it's styled, but with the little quality of life improvements that you've seen throughout like the 23 years now that series has been running. And it's just, I love a life sim. I love like the open endedness, the creation of the characters, and just putting them in this little scenario and running them through it. And I've just been thinking about it, and in the year when we saw a lot of stuff about Life by You and Paralives and Inzoi, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, and obviously the Sims 5 getting like a bit more detail around it, but none of those games, they're all a ways away yet. Tiny Life is the game that came out, and like it's so good. It's so good. If you are a Sims player, honestly, I still love The Sims. I still play The Sims 4 quite regularly. But if you are a Sims player in 2023 and you're not checking out the only like super functional, high quality life sim that came out this year, like you've got to give it a try. It's so good. It's like the best of the retro nostalgic, like golden era of The Sims, but it's pared down to the point where you can play it. It's on Steam. It's like fully verified for Steam Deck. It's got that portability that you just don't see in like The Sims anymore, really. And like the handheld ones are always kind of weird anomalies, but this is a fully functional, portable Sims. Like, I love it. I mean, I just obviously I'm just like gushing about how much I love this game because it
beaming.
I love it so much. I just don't know. I'm probably like not doing the best job of putting my point forward now because it is just so. It's just a game that you can lose hours to in the same way that you can to The Sims, but instead of, supporting EA and their thousands and thousands of pounds worth of add-ons, which I also do, in fairness. I'm not going to pretend that I'm a more moral and better person than that, but you can support this solo dev who's doing like fantastic work, putting like amazingly thoughtful queer rep into the games, making that like very much part of the DNA of the way that the game is designed as well. It's also, I find it a really cool feature of Tiny Life is that the way that the careers are structured is to reflect much more like ordinary kind of like blue collar people. So the jobs are jobs that you find like in an ordinary small town, like the one that the game is portraying. It takes, in that sense, a more grounded approach to small town life and the way it's simulated. So if you're, I'm someone who feels that that's kind of missing in the Sims series generally. And I really liked that, you play as like a firefighter or like a shop worker, someone who kind of has a bit more of an ordinary time of it generally. And I think that is there's a nice sort of reinforcement to it being this, like, I think it's about £16, £18 on Steam. to being this like accessible for people who don't have like a huge amount of hardware and a huge amount of money to spend on games, but you still have this like really lovely Sims-like game that you can then kind of reflect your own experience in more in so many ways in terms of like socioeconomic status, as saying like gender and sexual identity. I just think that's like going layers deep as well into this, like what is also just a lovely simulation game.
Oh, yeah. So you have loved Tiny Life for a long time.
I have. Oh, yes.
Uber fan. Rebecca Jones, Tiny Life, Uber fan.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no other game, as I've just listed off all the other games that are kind of trying to break into that space and haven't yet. I just think it's so worth celebrating that a solo dev was able to kind of get into the space this year and beat them all to it. Kind of gives me a really nice feeling as well.
I think it says a lot about how you don't need to try and emulate everything a huge mega publisher EA are capable of doing with The Sims. All you need to do is pair it back to the core fundamentals and you have a game that still resonates with the player base, right? Like,
indeed.
It does not need to be 3D. It is 2D. It is sort of graphically, more simplistic than the original Sims.
Oh, far more
that
simplistic
had 3D
than the original
elements.
Sims. Like,
yeah.
in
It's like
terms of,
very lo-fi.
Yeah, very lo-fi.
But it captures that same magic that people loved about that original game regardless. And, I think when we see things like Paralives, when we see things like Life by You, they are reaching so far to try and, grasp this impossible thing. And Tiny Lives comes along and says, hey, this is what you want.
Yeah.
Look what we've made.
It really has paired it back to the idea of life simulation and the amount of like emotion that you can read onto a character who is essentially like 8 pixels is
2 eyes.
It's an interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They've got eyes and kind of, that's about it really in the face, but you can, you can still make a character that reflects visually and in terms of personality like the character you want to make. You can create a lot of variation within quite a simple system engine. And I will talk about what happens if you get me going on Sims, so we should probably move away from this soon, because I will unprompted give 45-minute verbal essays because this is what I do. This is what I do.
Sicklesmeme.jpg just out the window like yes.
Another time. But yeah, no, I mean it's probably got to be my indie game of the year, just because it did something different and, in my opinion, really stuck the landing. So in this unordered list, probably at the top for me. If I
Yay!
did
Well, a good segue about an indie game that did something different but stuck the landing. We move on to my personal indie game of the year too, which is also sort of similar in some ways. So my final game is Against the Storm.
Like a storm effect, like whoa.
Oh,
someone like shaking some corrugated iron off stage.
that the instrument. It's like a maraca, but it's not. It's got like a
like the metal rings around.
Yeah,
it.
like.
I know exactly what you mean.
Musical.
What were they called?
Instrument metal balls.
Yeah.
Not
this
maraca.
all sounds right.
I think they
Not
are
maraca.
also maracas, maybe.
What's the instrument with the metal
No.
balls? Oh,
Ugh.
a cabasa.
You found it?
A cabasa.
The cabasa, a staple of every music room of the 90s.
Yeah,
I
I
find.
remember that. I've got like this real sense memory now of like,
yes, same.
I hadn't thought about those in probably 2.5 decades. That's quite something.
Those, a cabasa, that like multicolored, like tent-like bit of fabric that you would throw in the air, and then 2 people would have to run to the other side.
Parachute.
Yep. Oh,
Yes.
yes.
90s kids know. Real 90s kids remember these 5 things from primary school.
Don't answer if you were born in 1996 or 1997. I'm talking to the real 90s kids, the ones
The
who
real
remember.
heads. Exactly. Well, as we've established, Rebecca, no one under the age of 28 is allowed to listen to this podcast. Simply illegal.
Oh dear.
They don't remember the joys of tray cake with a little bit of pink icing on top. Oh, what a treat.
Oh, surely that's not that carried on past the 90s.
Getting the corner piece of tray cake was like
That was
the
winning.
best
It was the
fucking
lottery.
thing ever.
It was.
The best. It was like getting the corner of tray bake pizza as well. Have you ever had tray bake pizza at school?
Yes. Oh,
Crusty.
The best.
it's
2
been,
crusts.
It's been a while since I ate dinner. I'm
Crust.
getting hungry again. All this talk of food. This episode has come back to food so many times.
It has. It always does.
Always does. Always has been.
Because we eat at like 7:15 and then we record until midnight. That's our
Yes,
problem.
on a school night every single
On a
time.
school
We've
night,
never had the good sense to record on a Friday or a Saturday.
Nope. Monday Night Vibes. I think that's my fault. So, Against the Storm is by Eremite Games. Like I said, this is my personal indie game of the year. It's a roguelite city builder. And please bear with me, I'm going to be reading a lot of notes because this is a very complex game, and to try and summarize it in a couple of minutes is quite hard. But I really want you to play this bloody brilliant game. This has just come out of early access. It's just had its 1.0 release in December, which is always a worry for a game this good because it means it might miss most people's end of year lists. But don't worry, because this sicko loves these kind of games. So instead of focusing on one huge city, the aim of Against the Storm is to build multiple smaller settlements. So you're a viceroy for an enigmatic queen, and your job is to venture out from the smouldering city, which is this last bastion of civilization, following an apocalyptic event known as the Blightstorm, into the forest, which is this unknowable tangle of trees that stretches out past the city limits, seemingly forever. So everything in the forest is completely random. So you start off with this map of the forest, the city's in the middle, and you've got to select a tile from the map. You can only stretch out a certain amount, and when you click on a tile, it'll tell you the type of biome the tile belongs to, as well as all of the positives and negatives of building within that tile. Once you've completed a settlement, you move on, so you can stretch further away from that settlement you've just created, and the goal is to try and stretch further and further into the forest. The farther you travel, the better your rewards, which can be spent on permanent upgrades that change the game. After a number of in-game years, the Blightstorm returns, and it washes away all your settlements, and the forest randomizes, and you start again with your permanent upgrades in place to make things a little bit more interesting. But the real joy is in building these individual settlements. So building a settlement does not take longer than an hour and a half, 2 hours per settlement. You start with a handful of villages. All the villages are different animals. Each type of animal has different perks, likes, wants. A beaver is really good at cutting down trees, whereas a lizard is really good at smoking meat for reasons I don't quite understand. But this is the brilliant bit, is you get your handful of villages and you get a handful of randomly assigned buildings. So this is a resource management city builder. So your goal here isn't to fight enemies. You're not building armies. You're building production lines that turn things into other things. So meat into skewers or pies, or roots into cloth and then clothes. And the challenge is trying to create these products when the resources that spawn on the map and the buildings you begin with are all handed to you completely randomly. So you might be given some meat. There's a place on the map that lets you have meat. And one of the tasks you might be given is, well, you've got to deliver 40 skewers. And you might say, okay, well, that's fine, but I don't have the building to make the skewers yet. So what am I going to do? What is the route I need to take to get to this seemingly quite easy result, but with what I have per this map? And that's the beauty of it. That's that roguelike sensibility that really fits in. So you have to complete tasks to build your reputation. And once your reputation hits a defined amount, you succeed, can move on to a new settlement. But the queen herself is like really impatient. And you've got to try and contend with that impatience as well. It's like a bar at the bottom of the screen, and the more impatient she gets, that bar grows. If the bar hits the top, it's game over. So there's so many challenges. And
Oh my god.
bizarrely, I've been speaking for a long time there. That's just the surface of how complex this game is. There are additional levels of complexity to this game, all randomized, all making it more difficult and more interesting to try and do these seemingly easy goals. But it's all delivered so carefully, and it's probably the result of it being in early access for so long. This team were releasing an update, I think, every week or every fortnight
Whoa.
for nearly 2 years.
Oh, wow.
It never feels overwhelming. The barrier for entry is extremely low, and it just captures the joy of what I think is the best bit of a city builder, which is the first hour, where you've got a blank canvas and you look at what you have available to you and you just think, what am I going to construct? What are the challenges I'll face? How am I going to manage this and succeed? And I genuinely think, as I said up top, Against the Storm is just one of the best games of the year and my personal pick. I bloody love this video game. I think it's pure magic.
I need to play this game right now. Bye.
Yes, you do. Bye. Oh, off she pops.
Oh, Rachel's left. Oh.
15,000 overwhelmingly positive Steam reviews. I cannot emphasize enough. Like, this game sounds so good. It sounds very complex, which intimidates me a bit. But I have trust. I have trust that it will help me guide me through. It looks amazing as well, like visually. It looks it looks like a board game. Like it looks like I can pick up these pieces and like plunk them down.
It has that. It has it's like a dark fantasy game, so it's actually quite grim. And like, if you're collecting meat, you're ripping it out of these like weird dead leeches called like leech brood mothers. And obviously the storm is a constant feature.
That sounds cool. Sorry,
yeah.
That sounds really cool.
But I think I saw some people comment, and I think that's what put people off, is it looks sort of like a Blizzard game or a League of Legends spin-off.
That is so interesting, because it does.
Isn't it? Yeah, I can see it. I didn't see it before, but when people mention it, and I think it's almost working in the game's like detriment, but please look past that, because visuals maybe, but everything else is it's very much its own thing. Like, I think they've invented a brand new genre here that people are gonna like.
They should be using your comment about it's like the best part, the first hour of a city builder.
Yes,
like, that should be in the marketing, because that's such a good sell to make that, as you say, the perfect first hour. Like, how many times are you in a city building game and you just kind of restart after a while because you're like, oh
yeah, that was me.
I could have done that better, or I'm just bored. And like to the best games, a little bit of a spoiler maybe for what we're going to talk about in a minute, but the best games I think are the ones that find a weakness in a genre and manage to build a game around compensating for that and like building that into the foundation of the game.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah,
love it.
Also, beavers and foxes. That sounds cute. Even if they're ripping meat out of, I don't know what it was. Actually, you said the beavers were like little carpenters?
Yeah, they excel at being carpenters. You don't actually see like them ripping the meat out of them. They just like move their arms next to it and then they carry a big box. But they make cute little noises, and the harpies are a little bit scary. But the beavers and the foxes are my two favorite factions, definitely. Yeah,
and it looks so polished, even from the screenshots. That's maybe why there's like people think it's like a spin-off, because the screenshots alone, it looks so polished, and it's like a fantasy world, but it's like colorful. It's not like overly like smudges of brown and gray. Like, it generally looks really colorful and pretty. Ooh, I want to play it.
It is so polished as well. There's no rough edges on this thing whatsoever. It's been polished with an inch of its life, and it shows. It's so good. Shall we move on to our combined game of the year?
Yes. Shall we run a little bit of music?
Get your guesses in now.
Do a little
indie game.
Shout them out loud. I don't care where you are, on a bus, in the toilet, at your grandma's house for Christmas. I want you to shout the game you think it is out loud right now.
Open the window.
So yeah, it feels weird. Feels like I don't know. I mean, again, he who shall not be named kind of got away with just like declaring himself the person who will name Game of the Year, right? So we can just, with the confidence.
Wait, what?
With the confidence of the person whose name I promised I wouldn't say again in this episode. I'm just going to march in and be all like, yes, and now the very serious, prestigious business of naming the inaugural Indieventure Game of the Year.
Ooh.
Like, drum roll, please. No, this is too much. I can't carry this on. This is just, yeah, genuinely, as we mentioned at the top of the episode, we've gone through now our 12 kind of individual picks for the best indie games of the year. There's a huge amount of variety there. So I think it's really telling that when we were all asked to name our 5 favourite indie games of the year, every single one of us put Dredge on our list.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
How could Dredge not be our collective game of the year at that point? I mean, we've dedicated a whole episode of another podcast to it, but I think it's probably worth just doing a little recap here.
Yeah.
Because, we don't really have like a trophy and there's no one to hand it to if we did. So...
Yeah.
Dredge, it is a fishing sim, a Lovecraftian fishing simulator. And this is what I meant when I said taking the worst part of a genre, in this case, the bloody fishing minigame that every RPG has to have at the moment. I am so fed up with, and making it the centre point of a horror game.
Not the opinion of everyone on this podcast, by the way. Just
there's a minority report on this one. But making a really good fishing game that is just around the fishing, acknowledges the inherent evil of fishing minigames, runs with it. It's just, I'm so impressed. We played it for a group review back in April. I think it was March or April.
Yeah, I think it was. God, yeah.
I'm saddened that I haven't had enough time with it to finish it yet. I do now have the Pale Reach DLC, which I've not started yet. But yeah, just such... it's a game that clearly has, if not universal appeal, then a heck of a lot of appeal. I know so many people with very different gaming preferences who've gotten into this year. And you got to hand it, like, Team 17 are the publishers, and obviously that's like got a bit of cachet to it. So they were able to market it really well. But even with that kind of weight of an established indie publisher marketing it, I feel like it did inordinately well. It sold like 1 million copies. Indie games, single-player indie games do not sell 1 million copies in their first year. It does not happen. And that is a testament, I think, both admittedly to the way it was marketed very well, but also to the fact that it's a genuinely really, really good game that deserves, I think, to be called the Indie Game of the Year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, sorry, that's the Ring Fit catching up with me. I'm just like, that's a long sentence.
No, it's very good summary. This draws you in with a very great sense of intrigue. It's a very quiet, methodical game for the first 20 minutes. And all the game really tells you is don't go out at night. And obviously the first thing you want to do is go out at night. And when you go out at night, that's when the horrors come out.
Did you not listen to the foreboding Lovecraftian neighbours, the townsfolk? I did. Yeah. I didn't go out at night for like the first week. I was like, no, I'm listening to them. They seem to know what they're talking about.
For ages, actually. Well, as the wrong un on this podcast who likes Stardew Valley's fishing game quite a lot, actually, and will defend it.
I take back everything I said about my roasting of you being too mean earlier.
Don't boo me, I'm right. This really does capture like the joy of a methodical task and then just put something really sinister under the surface. And the way that the game handles pacing, you go between these different islands and you meet these different characters, and each island has a specific horror that's sort of inflicting and corrupting it, and you've got to sort of like do a little task to find an object, and it just has this great sense of progression and this great sense of mystery and exploration, and overall it's just like the most weirdly relaxing yet anxiety-inducing game I've ever played. You're sort of on edge and also really chilled at the same time.
Yes. I mean, it was a year for chill horror games. A couple that nearly made my list, but then kind of didn't in favor of Dredge were Animoiapolis and Slay the Princess, which both kind of had chill and horror vibes to them. But yeah, Dredge just does, as you say, it never drags. One of the hardest things with like this type of game is getting into the loop and keeping the loop interesting. And I think they just carry that off so well. Like, it never, unless, I mean, even when I did something really dumb, like upgraded all one part of my boat and ignored the entire rest of it, so I had this like tiny tugboat with no lights and the most souped up engine you've ever seen, it still played well. I wasn't soft locked, I wasn't stuck, I was able to sort of keep going with the choices that I'd made. And it's so well designed for that sort of constant enjoyment.
It's very much a mystery game that like as it is like an Eldritch fishing game, in terms of like there are so many like hooks that like narrative hooks that you can just go and explore with, like, oh, there's like a map with a location on it, you have to collect those. Oh, this person wants you to find this certain type of fish, and there's so many areas to poke around in. It's not just about going to an area, meeting its beastie, and then leaving immediately. It's kind of like it asks you to engage with its mysteries in different ways, and like ultimately the end of the game has a real good surprise, and I just think it's the build up to that is really great. And I mean, they released this game at the beginning of the year, or was it mid-year? No, it's the beginning of the year. Is that what
it's March? So
March.
Early
year. Released the DLC last month, so the timing couldn't be more perfect. Like, but this game is the definition of fuck around, find out, because night one. Okay, like I really like what you said about it. Like people, they don't go out at night, and they're not. This game, you wake up in this small town, the mayor, baby, don't go out at night, not that safe. The old weird lady who keeps like talking to the sea at night time is like, yeah, I've seen shadows in the water, it's kind of creepy. And the fishmonger's like, oh, I can pay a fine price for these kind of fish, but like, don't go out. This game's actively telling you, don't go out at night. Like, probably don't do that. And you still do. That is like the core of this game. Is like, isn't that so incredible? Like, this game is actually being like, don't do it. Ooh, maybe don't. And you're like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. It's like there's like a cheekiness about it.
That's a really good point.
It's like so, because I know you guys waited a week, but I was like, nah, I'm going. I did not play this horror fishing sim to fish for trout during the day. I'm gonna go find my three-eyed, like bulbousy, gross shark.
It's very true. Like, nothing forces you in this game other than your own curiosity. I mean, obviously, the journal and the quests do like prompt you. Eventually, you will run out of like quests to fulfill unless you go out at night. But you have the choice to just be a regular fisher person who
you kind of don't though, right? Because eventually, even if you're fishing throughout the day, you'll pull up something fucked up at some point.
Oh gosh, that's true.
It will always, like, there's an invasive sense of dread that is like, it doesn't matter if you try and play it straight, you're gonna like rip something out of the ocean that you should stomp to death and throw right back. Like, I'll give to the fishmonger from To Eat, which is maybe the moment I've really loved this game. Was the first time you give a fucked up fish to the fishmonger.
When he locks himself in with it.
And then you can't do anything for like 3 days or something. Yeah. Like, you just can't sell fish.
Yeah.
This is like, it's popular for a reason, right? It's just, it's such a breath of fresh air. It's just on the soundtrack. The soundtrack is so good.
Wow.
So good.
It's, it does have a really good appeal. It's, a horror game that anyone can get into. It's not going to jump scare you. It's, in the way that things have to be at the moment, it's very good to watch it streamed because, like, people love chill fishing streams, people love horror game streams, but it's not one of those games that's, like, just streamer bait. It is very satisfying to actually sit and play by yourself as well. They hit all the right notes with this one, and, like, can't really fault them for it. Like, kudos to, is it Black Salt Games?
Yes,
it is,
brilliant first game. I can't wait to see. I mean, obviously, what they're doing next is a lot more Dredge DLC and some like Dave the Diver crossover stuff, from what I've seen as well.
Oh,
which is very exciting.
Yeah. 2 indie games collaborating, is it?
Oh my goodness! Honestly, like the whole Dredge crossover thing makes me think like, yeah, I love that the 2 big fishing games of this year like got together almost immediately and went,
team.
It's a brilliant collaboration for the 2 of them to do, definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be so. I think the crossover is like Dredge into Dave the Diver rather than the other way around. But
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yes. Excited to see where all that goes and what Black Salt Games come up with next. Like, yeah, fantastic game.
A very deserving game of our game of the year, I think. An absolutely sensational
And here
thing.
we have the crown.
Oh, she's picking it up right now. There it is.
Oh,
that's...
I have the crown.
Oh, wait, does she actually have a crown?
Oh, is it the Goofy hat, please?
It's the Goofy
yes,
hat.
it's the Goofy hat.
Right, I didn't... Your webcam quality isn't amazing, right? But from what it looked like to me, that cupboard contained nothing but that Goofy hat. Is that entire cupboard just for that one Goofy hat?
There's other stuff.
Oh, okay. There's
there
a
is
couple
other
of
stuff
boxes in there as well.
Was that Binding of Isaac?
A hamburger
No.
phone. Hello.
Oh, it's a burger phone.
Oh, a burger
Just
phone.
picking up a burger phone.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, Rachel has just moved house, by the way. She's not like an NPC in a video game with just like one item per cupboard. It's just...
I have a lot of all my trinkets. I have a trinket box and
On my trinkets.
the Goofy
What a
hat
brilliant
was
idea.
sitting on top. I had it ready
Greatest
to
for
treasure
no
of
go.
reason.
all.
For no reason. Oh.
Yes, well done, Black Salt Games.
Well
You have
done,
won a
Craig.
Goofy hat from Indieventure.
I'm sure
Congrats.
the accolade you've been waiting for. You can go to bed now. It's been called.
Thank you for your service.
Oh god, I don't think I can sustain being like this self-aggrandizing without just like getting
I'm
the
here
giggles.
Immediately
for
got
it.
into self-deprecation.
Yes, it's not my natural state, let's put it like that. Anyway, it is rather late here, and we all have things to do in the morning, but do we have time for a quick round of hyperfixations? Last round of the year?
Yeah.
Oh, I think we do.
I think we do. We'll be quick. We'll be quick, right?
Yes, we'll be very quick.
I promised
is anyway.
Rachel I would go first.
Yes.
For reasons that will become apparent. So very quickly, because there's not a lot more to say at the moment. I can say this now, the embargo lifted today. I have been given like a couple of months prior access to the Apollo Justice Ace Attorney remaster trilogy.
Woo!
I managed to start playing it over the weekend. Obviously, it's all I've thought about since. The fact that I managed to make it through 2 hours of talking about any game that is not Apollo Justice Ace Attorney when nothing else exists to me now, including the fact that I'm surrounded in this room you can't see by Christmas presents that I haven't wrapped yet. That's another factor in my life. Yeah, the massive Ace Attorney nerd who's just been getting into the series through the remasters has got 95 more hours to play. So yeah,
That's a lot of lawyers.
That's me.
A lot of what kind of lawyers, Rachel?
Gay lawyers. I've just blown out my mic so fucking hard. I'm sorry.
Incredible.
It's
Nope,
all
that's
blue.
worth
It's just a
It's
chunk.
always worth it. Screaming the word gay into your microphone.
Mic check. Gay lawyers.
Oh dear. But yeah, I got early access to this game to do some previews and reviews for work, and
Yes.
now I'm just geeking out.
You're in your element.
I am in my element. It's surprising, you know, when you get to something and you're like, I'm excited for this, and then you like laser focus onto it, and you're like, oh, this is the difference between I'm quite into something and I'm like, I'm too into this, but I'm just gonna like vibe on it and enjoy it while it lasts. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
All 95 hours.
Oh my
So
god, I'm
much
3
video
hours in.
game.
It's just a
God damn it.
How does it feel to finally play them after waiting for them for so
Yes.
oh, that's a really good question. It feels right. Feels right.
long? It's good. Yeah, I can imagine it
Correct.
does. Yeah.
Indeed.
It
Yeah.
feels correct.
But yeah, no, it really did have that, you know, that feeling of like going back because of the way it's presented. Like the gameplay doesn't change very much, and the visual style doesn't change very much. So you're back somewhere familiar, like immediately, but with like new characters or characters who've like grown and developed a lot. And it's just really like very comforting but exciting at the same time. We've had the
Yeah.
first couple of instances where I was sat there like grumbling at a puzzle because it was just a little bit too obscure, but I managed to figure it out. And I'm like, yes, okay,
Nice.
good. We're back in Ace Attorney mode for the foreseeable.
I've heard that they've listened to feedback from the first trilogy collection, and they've done potentially like a more handcrafted job with the graphics from converting them from pixel art to
They do look a bit more
illustrations.
painterly. They do look a bit more painterly.
Yeah.
At least in Apollo
Good.
Justice, looking like ahead to the other two games, which I haven't played really in any detail. I think because they were on the 3DS, they look a little bit more similar to their 3DS inclinations, which is weird because it does mean that unlike the other two collections that they've released of this series, the style changes over the course of this trilogy, like in a way that will be quite obvious as you play through. But yeah, it does look sort of different. I did clock that in that it's just, again, it's kind of the same but different. It's a bit more painterly, like backgrounds. Sprites stand out more against their background because they are more obviously like anime characters against a sort of watercolorish
That's
background. Cool. It looks really nice. And I like as well that the public gallery now has individual sprites rather than just the same man over and over again. I don't know why that pleases me so much, but it does. I think there's actually some women in there as well. That's nice.
Well, I guess it maybe shows how much they love these games.
Like
right?
attention.
Like, to be fair, I think
attention,
the original trilogy remasters look great as well. Like, I think that, but they have just done like a little bit of a different take on it this time, and it's so nice to look at. I also just finally, this is by the by, I finally bought a new TV because I realized that I'd had my old TV for 11 years and you can't see a damn thing on it anymore because
nice.
Game developers assume that you've got a bigger 4K TV, and I was still looking at this like little ass thing. And so putting Apollo's face up on the big TV in my living room has been a real treat as well.
Just all forehead.
Yeah,
Just
the whole
forehead.
Just that really long hair spike as well. Looks like it
His
could do some
horns.
damage.
6 inches of forehead. Yep, that's Apollo, baby, on a 4K TV.
Yes. But yeah, that's me. That's me hyperfixating. I mean, it's good that we're having a longer break until after Christmas to give me something else to think about.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm happy for you, bud. It could not have been given to a better person. Good on VG.
Do you want to?
Absolutely.
Do you want to go next, Rachel?
My hyperfixation is Rebecca playing Apollo Justice Ace Attorney. I am obsessed. You told us you had a copy, and I was like, oh my god. And then you shared a screenshot of you playing it, and I was like, oh my god. And I'm saving memes to show you specific to different trials, which I will send you in a timely manner when you reach them. And I want to know your opinions, and I just need to know what you think of it because I love Apollo Justice. So yeah, that's my hyperfixation. I honestly have been thinking about it a lot.
She has been messaging me a lot about it as well.
Just like, let me know anything. You can tell me whatever you feel. It's all good. Please tell me.
Yeah, it's been a real loving of like us hanging out talking about Ace Attorney a lot more even than usual the last few days. So.
Yes. Yeah,
wonderful. Absolutely love to see it.
Yes, because I played Apollo Justice the old-fashioned way on my cartridge recently, and I love it. I love it so much. I honestly think it's like one of my favorite ones, second to Trials and Tribulations, and I want to know, a true Ace Attorney lawkeeper uber fan like delve into it, because I very much just play these games and look at Apollo's forehead and be like, haha, funny joke, and then don't think of much else. So yes, that's mine.
Oh, that's so sweet, Rachel. Thank you.
Liam, what is yours?
Liam.
Our last hyperfixation of 2023.
Oh, good. Right. Well, I'm going to lose all of your respect for my hyperfixation. So the problem with hyperfixations is that normally they come as recommendations because we like to enthuse about the things that we're hyperfixated about, and therefore we want people to enjoy them in the same way we've enjoyed them. But there is a darker side to hyperfixations in which something you might have loved before becomes an obsession, and you can't stop thinking about it, and you kind of want to talk about it, but not in a good way. So anyway, my hyperfixation this week is fucking Fortnite, isn't it? Because of course it is.
I fucking knew it.
I've been playing Fortnite since it came out. I am one of those sickos. It's not something I like to admit, but if you ever wondered why a certain website I used to work for always had Fortnite in its top 50 of the best games of all time lists, and probably doesn't now when they do that list again in the future.
That was you?
Of course that was me. Fortnite is my comfort game. Fortnite is it's just there. It's eternal. It's just, if I want to chill out and watch a very long Bomber Guy video, for instance, also a very good thing I recommend.
Shit, yeah.
I play Fortnite on one monitor. I watch something on the other monitor. I play it with Yoli. I play it with other people. It's just been this beautiful thing that's been with me for years at this point. And over the last week, Epic, in all of their billion-dollar glory, have decided to add 3 additional games into Fortnite as a result of multiple acquisitions and years of development. This week Fortnite has alongside its Battle Royale mode and its original Save the World mode, which Epic don't like to acknowledge even exist anymore, we now have Lego Fortnite, which is basically Minecraft. We now have Rocket Royale, which is a racing game, and we have Fortnite Festival, which is a music rhythm game developed by Harmonix. And boy, do I have some complicated feelings about all of these new modes. It really does feel like Rome before it burned. Like, I just
decadence.
They've spent so long making this Battle Royale that was like the only quote unquote successful metaverse, as much as that makes vomit and bile flood my mouth. Like, it was just, I liked Fortnite because it was a big box full of action figures and you could mash RoboCop with Goku and Ariana Grande, and like, it was just this big silly thing. But now it's like, oh, it's so bloated. And the racing game is incredible. The racing game is properly good. Like, the team at Psyonix have made something really, really good there. The rhythm game is very odd. Harmonix have such a pedigree. They invented the modern rhythm game as we know it, and trying to play Billie Eilish's Bad Guy on a keyboard and not a plastic instrument is bad vibes, my dude. Like, I don't think I like that. And I don't know if I like Peter Griffin singing Thunder by Imagine Dragons at the same time. It's just so cursed. But also they've added a jam mode, which is basically Fuser, which was one of my favorite of their games, where you could mash different tracks from popular songs together and adjust the BPM and the tone. And that was incredible. And that game died very quickly because it wasn't sustainable. But now it's in Fortnite, but it's also public. So you're trying to mess around with it, and some kid on his mum's iPad will run up and just start spamming Billie Eilish's Bad Guy and changing the tempo. And I just think, like, this can't continue. Like, this can't continue. Like, they already laid off so many people this year, and now they're adding 3 additional games into their big game that it can't be successful forever. And I'm just having a breakdown over it. So thank you for listening. I'll keep playing it though, because I've got to get the battle pass because of who I am as a person, and I can earn XP in the racing game now, and eventually I'll be dead and it'll sweet non-existence. Bring it on, baby. So yeah, Fortnite. Don't play it.
Help. I understand now why you a few minutes ago were like, should we skip hyperfixations for today? It's like, this has clearly been like a thing for you, and like, I understand. Honestly, like, this guide's writer by day already knows your pain. The amount of Lego Fortnite I've had to play in my day job the last week.
Are you enjoying Lego Fortnite?
It's quite good. I quite like it.
Yeah,
it's good to pass the time, but I would be playing other things if I were not being paid to play this game.
Oh, really? You wouldn't be playing Lego Fortnite over Apollo Justice Collection?
Yeah, this is fair. But, like, I mean, I've brought, like, Honkai Star Rail as my hyperfixation before. Like you say, it's not always, like, this uncomplicated, we play the big games as well. Like, it's as long as you're having fun and it's not a problem. It's not.
I googled Lego Fortnite and because I wanted to know what it looked like, and yeah, it's just Lego. It's just Lego Fortnite. Yeah, didn't know why.
But it's actually Minecraft. That's the twist.
It's not Battle Royale, and they've transferred
Minecraft.
Like 1,200 skins from Fortnite. They've made Lego versions of, and all the dancers are in Lego form, so you can like hit the griddy as a Lego character.
There's a weird amount of detail.
It's weirdly good. Like, the amount of polish in it.
Hey, hyperfixations, safe space.
Yeah,
you said it before.
It is a safe space.
Safe space. Even when we talk about Fortnite.
Yes.
My beloved Fortnite.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Oh. Well,
Man.
what a way to end the year, gang. On that cursed note. A real mixed bag of hyperfixations. We did it. That concludes our first year of podcasting.
Oh my goodness.
Yay!
Wow.
We did it.
What a great collection of games. Honestly, I'm so happy with
I
our
know.
picks.
Yeah,
They are
that is
so
such
good.
I think that's a definitive list, to be honest. I think that's such a good list.
That is a good list. I'm happy with that list. Yeah, very happy with that list. But yeah, shall I give us a little outro, which I forgot to pre-write, so it's going to be sort of on the fly.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Go for
I
it.
love this. An off-the-cuff outro. Absolutely.
So yes, that is the end of Indieventure for 2023. Incidentally, I noticed while we were recording that I spelt the podcast name as Indievenute on my notes, so that's around about where I've been today.
Oh, you spelled Indiscovery very wrong.
You're about to give me a heart attack then, because I was like so worried that I've been saying the wrong title all day. No, it's fine. We're good. But yes, that is the last of Indieventure for 2023. But please do join us again starting January the 11th, 2024. All being well, we'll put on social media if we have to make it different for some reason. Please do come back. We've got plenty more where this came from. So if you're enjoying this after a slightly longer than usual break, we will be back. In the meantime, I guess it just remains for me to say Merry Christmas, or if you celebrate something else or don't celebrate at all, have a wonderful time. And if this isn't your time of year, it's like have a peaceful one, relax, take a breath. You did
Rest.
Yeah.
Happy New Year. Thank you so much for joining us this year. It's been like a fantastic experience getting to do this silly little gaming podcast with my friends, and people listening makes it possible for us to keep going. Like, thank you so much, genuinely, and I look forward to seeing you again in 2024.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.
I think. Did you say thank you so loud there? I think Disco had cut out.
Quite possibly.
How thankful Rachel is. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. It, like Rebecca says, it's just been an absolutely incredible year. This is the best creative endeavor I've ever embarked on. I love this thing that we've made together.
I know, me
and
too.
long may it continue.
Like, highlight of the year for me, for sure, has been making this podcast. It's so great. Like, I love you guys so much, and cannot wait to do this all again next year.
Oh, same. Love you too, buddy. Although this is my second highlight. My highlight was hugging Ellen McLean, but this is a close second.
That's absolutely fair. Honestly, if I hugged Ellen McLean this year, I would not shut up about it.
I'm joking. This being
hit on by Ellen McLean.
Take it. Oh my. Yeah.
Oh my.
Sorry, Ellen. You come second to this podcast. I do. Anyway, yeah. Goodbye, everyone. Happy New Year.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
All right. Goodbye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Happy New Year.
Indieventure is a podcast created, hosted, edited, and produced by Rebecca Jones, Rachel Watts, and me, Liam Richardson. For more information, search Indieventure Podcast on your social media platform of choice. You can get in touch by sending your questions, comments, and feedback to contact@indieventurepodcast.co.uk. You can support the show by rating us 5 stars and leaving a nice review on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast provider, or let your friends know all about the good times you had with the Indieventure podcast. Some of the games we talk about on the show may have been provided to us for free for review consideration. If you are a developer, a publisher, or a PR looking to get in touch, drop us an email at hello@indieventurepodcast.co.uk. Our intro music and stings are from the song Cigarette Boat by Mark Torch. Thank you so much for listening, and see you again in 2 weeks for another episode of Indieventure, a video games podcast. Bye for now.